The soldier's hand moved faster than anyone expected, locking around the nurse's wrist before she could touch the IV line. His grip didn't waver. His eyes burned through her like she was the enemy. "Don't," he said. One word, flat, final. The emergency room at Redwood Mercy Hospital went silent. Doctors froze mid-step. Security hands drifted toward radios. The man on the gurney, blood crusted along his temple, shirt torn, ribs wrapped tight, hadn't said a word in 3 hours. Not during intake. Not during triage. Not when they cut his jacket off and found scars that didn't belong on any civilian body. Now he was talking, and it sounded like a threat. Dr. Karim stepped forward, jaw tight. "Sir, if you don't let us treat you, you're going to bleed out. We're trying to help." The man's gaze didn't shift. "I said don't." Karim's voice sharpened. "Sedate him. Now." And that's when Sarah saw it. The tattoo, half hidden beneath the torn sleeve. A symbol she hadn't seen in years. A ghost mark her brother once carried before he disappeared into a world that didn't officially exist. If you want to see how a nurse no one believed in just saved a man the system tried to bury, stay with me until the end. Drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. You won't believe what happens next. Sarah wasn't supposed to be in that room. She was covering for another nurse who'd called in sick, pulling a double after an 8-hour shift that had already drained her. Her scrubs were wrinkled. Her hair was tied back in a knot that had come loose 2 hours ago. She looked like every other exhausted staff member in Redwood Mercy's ER on a Friday night, except she was the one they kept sidelining. Not because she wasn't good, because she was quiet. And in a place like this, quiet meant invisible. "Doctor." Karim didn't even glance at her when he barked orders. "Vitals, IV. Imaging suite in 10. Sarah moved fast, clipboard in hand, but before she reached the gurney, another nurse, Linda, senior staff, 15 years on the floor, cut in front of her. "I got this," Linda said, not even looking back. Sarah stopped, stepped aside, watched. That's when the man's hand shot up. Linda yelped, stumbling backward. The man's fingers stayed locked around her wrist, not squeezing, just holding, firm, unyielding. His eyes tracked her like she was a variable in an equation he hadn't solved yet. "Let go," Linda hissed, yanking back. He didn't. Security moved in. 2 guards, both ex-military by the way they walked. One reached for the man's shoulder. The other went for his arm. Bad idea. The man twisted, fast and controlled, breaking Linda's grip without jerking. His other hand came up in a block that stopped the guard's reach cold. No punches, no violence, just positioning. Like muscle memory written so deep it didn't need thought. The guard stepped back, hand hovering near his belt. "Sir, you need to calm down." The man said nothing. His breathing stayed level. His eyes stayed sharp. Dr. Karim pushed forward, voice rising. "We don't have time for this. You're in shock. You've lost blood. If you don't let us work, you're going to die on that table." Still nothing. Karim turned to the nearest nurse. "Get a sedative ready. If he won't cooperate, we do this the hard way." That's when Sarah saw it again. The tattoo. Partially obscured by dried blood and torn fabric, but unmistakable once you knew what to look for. A stylized bird of prey, wings folded, talons gripping a blade. Military ink, but not the kind you got at a parlor near base. The kind that marked you as part of something that didn't show up on official rosters. Her brother had one just like it, before she'd enlisted, before the letters stopped coming, before the quiet men in suits showed up at her mother's door and said words like classified and cannot confirm. Sarah's pulse kicked up, but her face stayed calm. She'd learned that a long time ago, how to keep everything locked down when the world got loud. She stepped forward, not fast, not aggressive, just steady. "Dr. Karim," she said quietly. He didn't turn. "Not now, Bennett. I think I can help." "Stay in your lane." Linda was rubbing her wrist, glaring at the man on the gurney. One of the guards had his hand on his radio, ready to call for backup. The attending physician, a younger guy, Dr. Morris, Looked like he was 2 seconds from jabbing a needle straight into the patient's thigh. Sarah moved anyway. She didn't ask permission, didn't wait for approval. She just walked up to the side of the gurney where the man could see her clearly, hands visible, body language loose. And then she spoke. Not in English. A phrase. Short, clipped. A dialect most people wouldn't recognize. Military jargon mixed with something older, something tactical. The kind of code you only learned if you'd been inside the wire, deep in places that didn't have names on maps. The man's eyes locked onto hers. For 3 seconds, the room held its breath. Then his hand, still raised, still ready, slowly lowered. He didn't relax, didn't smile. But something shifted. A calculation recalibrated. Threat assessment revised. Sarah kept her voice low. "You're safe here. No one's going to hurt you." The man stared at her. His jaw worked like he was testing words he hadn't used in a while. Finally, he spoke. "Prove it." Sarah nodded. She turned to Dr. Karim, who was staring at her like she'd just grown a second head. "He's not in shock," she said. "He's in defense mode. He thinks we're a threat." Karim's mouth opened, closed. "How do you—" "Let me handle this," Sarah cut in. "Give me 2 minutes." Karim looked at the man, at the guards, at the sedative still sitting on the tray. Then he stepped back. 2 minutes. Sarah turned back to the patient. "What's your name?" The man hesitated. His eyes flicked to the guards, the doctors, the monitors beeping behind him, then back to Sarah. "Adil," he said. "Adil," she repeated. "I'm Sarah. I'm going to check your vitals. I'm not going to sedate you. I'm not going to restrain you. But I need you to let me work. Can you do that?" Adil's gaze didn't waver. "Why should I?" "Because if you don't, they'll do it anyway. And you know what happens when someone forces your hand." His jaw tightened, but after a beat, he nodded. Sarah moved carefully, checking his pulse, his breathing, his pupils. Every movement telegraphed. No surprises. Adil tracked her, but he didn't stop her. Behind her, she heard Dr. Karim muttering to Morris. "Where the hell did she learn that?" Morris didn't answer. He was too busy staring. Sarah kept working. "You've got a concussion, possible fractured ribs, lacerations on your left side. We need imaging to rule out internal bleeding." Adil's voice was flat. "No drugs." "No drugs," Sarah agreed. "But we need to move you. Can you walk?" He tested his weight, wincing. "Yeah." "Good. Let's go." She helped him sit up, one hand steady on his shoulder. The guards didn't move. Karim didn't intervene. They just watched as Sarah guided a man who'd been ready to fight the entire ER toward the imaging suite like it was the most natural thing in the world. Linda was still staring, wrist cradled against her chest. "What the hell just happened?" Morris shook his head. "I have no idea." The imaging suite was quieter, cooler. Adil sat on the edge of the table, staring at the wall like he was mapping exits. Sarah prepped the machine, moving with the same steady rhythm she'd used in the ER. "You military?" Adil didn't answer right away. Then, "Was. What unit?" "Can't say." Sarah didn't push. She'd heard that answer before. From her brother. From the men who came to the house. From the silence that followed. "You got someone we can call?" she asked. "No." "Family?" "No." "Friends?" Adil's mouth twitched, not quite a smile. "You always ask this many questions?" "Part of the job." "Thought your job was needles and bandages." "That too." Sarah adjusted the machine, glancing at him. "But right now, my job is making sure you don't bleed out because you're too stubborn to let anyone help." Adil leaned back against the table, exhaling slowly. "I don't trust doctors." "You trusted me. You're not a doctor." "Fair point." Sarah pulled up his chart on the tablet. "But Dr. Karim is, and he's good. Better than most. Doesn't matter how good he is if I don't let him work." Sarah looked at him, really looked. The scars weren't random, they were precise, surgical. The kind you got from shrapnel, from blades, from things that shouldn't have been survivable. What happened to you? She asked quietly. Adil's eyes went distant. Long story. We've got time. No, he said. We don't. Before Sarah could respond, the door swung open. Dr. Karim stepped in, tablet in hand, face tight. Imaging's up, he said curtly. Let's move. Sarah stepped aside. Karim didn't look at her, but his voice was clipped. Bennett, you're done here. Go back to the floor. He responds to me, Sarah said. If you want him to cooperate, I said you're done. Sarah bit down on the response that wanted to come out. She nodded once, then turned to Adil. You'll be okay. Adil didn't answer, but his eyes followed her as she left. Back on the floor, Sarah went through the motions, vitals, charts, medication rounds, the usual chaos of a Friday night ER, drunk drivers, kitchen accidents, chest pains that turned out to be panic attacks. But her mind stayed in that imaging suite. She'd seen men like Adil before. Not many, but enough. The ones who came back wrong. The ones who couldn't turn it off. The ones who saw every room as a battlefield and every person as a potential threat. Her brother had been one of them. She was restocking gauze when Linda found her. You got lucky, Linda said, arms crossed. Sarah didn't look up. What are you talking about? With that guy. Adil, whatever his name is, you got lucky he didn't snap your arm. He wasn't going to, Linda scoffed. You don't know that. Yeah, Sarah said quietly. I do. Linda stared at her for a beat, then shook her head. Karim's pissed, you know. You made him look bad in front of the whole team. I was trying to help. You were trying to be a hero. Sarah finally looked up. I was doing my job. Linda's jaw tightened. Your job is to follow orders, not freelance. Sarah didn't respond. She went back to restocking. Linda lingered for another moment, then walked away, muttering something under her breath. Sarah exhaled slowly. She wasn't trying to be a hero. She wasn't trying to make anyone look bad. She was just trying to stop someone from dying. 2 hours later, Sarah was in the break room when Dr. Morris found her. Hey, he said, leaning against the doorframe. You got a second? Sarah looked up from her lukewarm coffee. What's up? Morris glanced over his shoulder, then stepped inside, closing the door behind him. Karim ran the imaging. Adil's got 3 fractured ribs, a mild concussion, and some internal bruising, but nothing life-threatening. Good. Yeah. Morris hesitated. But there's something else. Sarah's stomach tightened. What? His chart flagged. Military medical records, classified clearance, high-level trauma markers. Morris lowered his voice. Sarah, this guy's not just ex-military. He's black ops, special operations, the kind of stuff that doesn't make it into official reports. Sarah's grip tightened on her coffee cup. How do you know? Because I've seen it before. My cousin was Navy. Got pulled into some joint task force thing. Came back with the same kind of markers. Same kind of scars. Morris paused. Same kind of silence. Sarah didn't respond. Morris leaned against the counter. Whatever you said to him, it worked. But Karim's not happy. He thinks you overstepped. I saved the guy's life. Maybe, but you also made Karim look like he didn't know what he was doing, and he's not the kind of guy who forgets that. Sarah set her coffee down. So what now? Morris shrugged. Now? You stay out of his way. Let the senior staff handle it. Don't give him a reason to write you up. Sarah nodded slowly. But inside, something was gnawing at her. Because she knew what happened to men like Adil. She'd seen it with her brother. The system didn't know how to help them. It knew how to process them, medicate them, discharge them. But it didn't know how to save them. And if no one stepped in, Adil would slip through the cracks, just like her brother did. She found him 3 hours later. He wasn't in imaging anymore. They'd moved him to a recovery room on the 3rd floor, quiet, isolated, away from the main ER traffic. Sarah checked the hallway, then slipped inside. Adil was awake, sitting up, staring at the window like he was watching for something. You're not supposed to be here, he said without looking at her. Neither are you, Sarah replied. Adil turned. His face was bruised, stitches running along his temple, but his eyes were sharp. They trying to discharge me already? Not yet, but they will. Sarah closed the door behind her. You got anyone to call? Anyone who can pick you up? I told you, no. Sarah crossed her arms. Then where are you going? Adil didn't answer. Sarah stepped closer. You can't just walk out of here and disappear. You've got broken ribs, a concussion. You need rest. You need follow-up care. I've had worse. I'm sure you have. But that doesn't mean you should push it. Adil leaned back against the pillows, exhaling slowly. Why do you care? Sarah hesitated. Then she pulled up a chair and sat down. Because I had a brother, she said quietly. He was like you. Military, special operations, came back different, didn't trust anyone, didn't talk to anyone, just shut down. Adil's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. One day he left, Sarah continued, said he had to go, didn't say where, didn't say why, just gone. She paused. 3 months later, they found him in a motel outside Phoenix. Overdose. Fentanyl mixed with something else. They called it accidental. Adil's jaw tightened. I don't think it was, Sarah said. I think he just couldn't handle it anymore. And no one stopped to ask if he was okay. The room was silent except for the faint hum of the monitors. Finally, Adil spoke. I'm sorry. Sarah nodded. Me too. They sat there for a moment, the weight of it settling between them. Then Adil's gaze shifted back to the window. You think I'm like him? I think you're in pain, Sarah said, and I think you're trying to handle it alone, and I think that's a really bad idea. Adil's mouth twitched. You always this blunt? Only when it matters. He looked at her, really looked, and for the first time since she'd met him, something in his expression softened. You're not like the others, he said. Good, Sarah replied, because the others were about to sedate you. Adil huffed, a sound that might have been a laugh if it hadn't been buried under so much exhaustion. Then his gaze shifted to the door. They're going to come looking for you. Let them. You'll get in trouble. Probably. Adil shook his head. You're stubborn. So are you. Another beat of silence. Then Adil leaned forward, wincing as his ribs protested. You want to know what happened to me? Sarah didn't move. Only if you want to tell me. Adil stared at his hands, scarred, calloused, hands that had done things he'd never be able to forget. I was part of a unit, he said slowly. Off the books, deep insertion, hostage rescue, asset extraction, high-value targets. The kind of work that doesn't make the news. Sarah listened. We did good work, Adil continued. Saved lives, stopped bad things from happening, but it cost us. Every mission, something got left behind, a piece of who we were, a piece of who we used to be. His voice dropped. I lost count of how many times I should have died. How many times I watched people I cared about get taken out right in front of me. How many times I had to keep moving because stopping meant failing. He looked up at Sarah. And then one day they told us we were done, mission complete, go home, live your life. His laugh was bitter. Like it's that easy. Sarah's chest tightened. I tried, Adil said. I really did. Got a job, got an apartment, tried to blend in. But everywhere I went, I saw threats. Every loud noise, every sudden movement, every stranger who got too close. It all felt like an ambush. He exhaled slowly. So I stopped going out, stopped talking to people, just shut down. Sarah's voice was quiet. What brought you here? Adil's gaze went distant. Car accident. Wasn't my fault. Guy ran a red light, T-boned me. I walked away. He didn't. He paused. But when I came to, I was surrounded. Paramedics, cops, firefighters, all of them crowding in, touching me, asking questions, and I just snapped. Sarah's stomach dropped. I didn't hurt anyone, Adil said quickly. But I came close, real close. They sedated me, brought me here, and the whole time all I could think was, this is it. This is where I lose control. This is where I become the thing I was trained to fight. He looked at Sarah. And then you showed up. Sarah's throat was tight. You didn't treat me like a threat, Adil said. You treated me like a person, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was drowning. Sarah didn't know what to say, so she just nodded. Adil leaned back, closing his eyes. Thank you. Before Sarah could respond, the door swung open. Dr. Kareem stood in the doorway, face hard. Bennett, outside, now. Sarah stood slowly. Dr. Kareem, now. She glanced at Adil. He gave her a faint nod. Sarah followed Kareem into the hallway. The door clicked shut behind them. Kareem turned on her, voice low and sharp. What the hell do you think you're doing? Talking to a patient. You're not assigned to this patient. He responds to me. That's not your call to make. Sarah kept her voice level. He was going to shut down. You saw it. If you hadn't stepped in, we would have handled it. By sedating him? Kareem's jaw tightened. That patient is a security risk. He's unstable. He's dangerous. And you're treating him like he's your personal project. He's a human being, Sarah said. And he's scared. He's a liability. Sarah stared at him. You don't even know what he's been through. And you do? Sarah didn't answer. Kareem stepped closer, voice dropping. Let me make this clear, Bennett. You're a junior nurse. You follow orders. You don't freelance. You don't make calls above your pay grade. And you sure as hell don't undermine the attending physician in front of the entire team. Sarah's fists clenched. I was trying to help. You were trying to be a hero, and it's going to cost you. Kareem turned, walking away. Then he paused, glancing back. You're off this case. Stay away from Adil. That's an order. He didn't wait for a response. He just walked away, leaving Sarah standing alone in the hallway. Sarah went back to the floor, went through the motions, but her mind stayed locked on Adil. She knew what would happen. They'd process him, discharge him, send him out into the world with a prescription and a follow-up appointment he'd never keep, and then he'd disappear. Just like her brother. She couldn't let that happen. Not again. At 2 a.m., the ER was quieter. The chaos had died down. Most of the staff had rotated out. Sarah was finishing up her charts when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Hello? Static. Then a voice. Rough, strained. Sarah. Her pulse kicked up. Adil? They're moving me, he said. Tomorrow morning, discharging me. Sarah's stomach dropped. Where are you going? I don't know. Silence. Then Adil's voice, quieter. I don't think I can do this. Sarah's throat tightened. Yes, you can. You don't understand. Out there, I can't. Then don't go alone. Adil went quiet. Sarah's mind raced. Give me until morning. I'll figure something out. Sarah, trust me. Another pause. Then, barely audible. Okay. The line went dead. Sarah stared at her phone, heart pounding. She didn't know what she was going to do. She didn't know how she was going to help him, but she knew one thing. She wasn't going to let him disappear. The next morning, Sarah was back at the hospital before her shift started. She went straight to administration, asked to speak with the patient advocate, and laid out everything she knew, Adil's background, his trauma, his risk factors. The advocate listened, took notes, promised to follow up. But Sarah knew how these things went. Promises didn't mean much when the system was already overloaded. She was heading back to the ER when she saw them. Two men, suits, military posture, walking through the lobby like they owned the place. Her stomach dropped. She ducked into a stairwell, watching through the window as they approached the front desk. One of them showed a badge. The receptionist nodded, pointed toward the elevators. Sarah's pulse hammered. They were here for Adil. She didn't think. She just moved. She took the stairs two at a time, hitting the third floor and sprinting down the hallway. She reached Adil's room just as the door opened. Adil was on his feet, dressed, bag over his shoulder. He looked up, saw her, and froze. "They're here," Sarah said. Adil's expression went cold. "Who?" "Two men, military. They're coming for you." Adil's jaw tightened. He moved toward the door, but Sarah stepped in front of him. "Wait," she said. "What are you going to do?" "What I always do," Adil said flatly. "Disappear." "That's not a plan." "It's the only one I've got." Sarah grabbed his arm. "Adil, listen to me. If you run, they'll find you, and when they do, you'll be out of options." "I'm already out of options." "No," Sarah said. "You're not." Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Adil's eyes flicked toward the door. "Sarah, move." "No?" "Sarah." The door swung open. The two men stepped inside. One of them, tall, graying hair, sharp eyes, looked from Adil to Sarah and back again. "Adil Kane," he said. "We need to talk." Adil didn't move. His entire body was coiled, ready. The man raised his hands slowly. "We're not here to hurt you. We're here to help." Adil's voice was flat. "That's what they all say." The man's gaze shifted to Sarah. "Ma'am, you need to step outside." Sarah didn't budge. "Who are you?" The man pulled out a badge. "Commander Hale, Defense Intelligence. We've been looking for Adil for 3 months." Sarah's blood went cold. Hale's eyes stayed on Adil. "You went dark after the incident in Kandahar. No contact, no check-ins. We thought you were dead." Adil's jaw clenched. "Maybe I should be." Hale's expression softened. "You're not dead, Adil. You're here and we can help you, but you have to come with us." Adil shook his head. "I'm done. I'm out." "You were never out," Hale said quietly. "You know that." The room went silent. Then, from the hallway, another voice, sharp, angry. "What the hell is going on here?" Dr. Karim pushed past the second agent, eyes blazing. "This is a hospital. You can't just barge in here and—" Hale turned, badge still in hand. "This is a classified matter, Doctor. I suggest you step back." Karim's face went red. "I don't care what it is. This is my patient. And—" "No," Hale said coldly. "He's ours." Karim opened his mouth to argue, but the second agent, a woman, shorter, harder, stepped forward. "Doctor, this is above your clearance. We're taking Adil Kane into protective custody. If you interfere, you'll be in violation of federal law." Karim stared at her, then at Adil, then at Sarah. His voice dropped. "What the hell did you get us into, Bennett?" Sarah didn't answer. Her eyes were on Adil. He was staring at Hale like he was calculating odds, mapping exits, weighing choices. Finally, he spoke. "If I go with you, what happens?" Hale's voice was steady. "We debrief you, get you the help you need, and then we figure out what's next." "And if I don't?" Hale's expression hardened. "Then you're a fugitive, and we bring you in anyway." Adil exhaled slowly, then he looked at Sarah. "You were right," he said quietly. "I can't do this alone." Sarah's chest tightened. Adil turned back to Hale. "Okay, I'll go." Hale nodded. "Smart choice." The second agent moved forward, but Adil held up a hand. "One condition." Hale raised an eyebrow. "What?" Adil glanced at Sarah. "She comes with me." Hale frowned. "That's not non-negotiable," Adil said. "She's the only reason I'm still here. If you want me to cooperate, she's part of the deal." Hale stared at him, then at Sarah. "Fine," he said, "but she's on observation only. No clearance, no access. Understood?" Adil nodded. Sarah's pulse hammered. "Wait, what?" Adil turned to her. "You said you'd help. So help." Sarah's mind was spinning. This was insane. This was way beyond her pay grade. This was... "Okay," she heard herself say. "Okay." Hale gestured toward the door. "Let's move." They walked out together. Adil, Sarah, Hale, and the second agent. Dr. Karim stood in the hallway, staring after them like he'd just watched reality crack open. Linda was at the nurse's station, mouth hanging open. Morris was leaning against the wall, eyes wide. And Sarah just kept walking, because for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be, even if she had no idea where that was. The elevator descended in silence. Sarah stood between Adil and the female agent, whose name she still didn't know. Commander Hale was in front, checking his phone. The numbers ticked down. 5th floor, 4th, 3rd. Sarah's mind was racing. What had she just agreed to? She was a nurse. Her life was vitals and medication rounds and double shifts, not classified military operations, not federal agents, not whatever the hell this was. But when she glanced at Adil, she saw something she recognized. The same look her brother had worn in those final months. The look of a man hanging on by a thread. So she stayed quiet. The elevator doors opened onto the ground floor. Hale stepped out first, scanning the lobby. Sarah followed, Adil beside her, the female agent bringing up the rear. They moved fast, cutting through the main corridor toward the side exit. A few staff members glanced up, but no one stopped them. Sarah caught a glimpse of Dr. Kareem near the nurses' station, still staring after them like he'd witnessed something he couldn't explain. Good. Let him wonder. Outside, a black SUV was waiting, engine running. Hale opened the rear door. Get in. Adil climbed in without hesitation. Sarah hesitated, then followed. The female agent slid in beside her, and Hale took the front passenger seat. The driver, another suit, stone-faced, pulled out before the doors were even fully closed. Sarah gripped the edge of the seat. Where are we going? Hale didn't turn around. Secure location, about 40 minutes outside the city. What kind of secure location? The kind you don't ask questions about. Sarah's jaw tightened. Adil sat beside her, staring out the window, expression unreadable. The female agent leaned forward, pulling out a tablet. I need you to sign this. Sarah looked at the screen. A non-disclosure agreement. Dense legal text. Words like classified, federal offense, criminal prosecution. What happens if I don't sign? The agent's voice was flat. Then we turn around and drop you back at the hospital. And you never see Adil again. Sarah glanced at Adil. He didn't react, just kept staring out the window. She took the tablet and signed. The agent pulled it back without a word. They drove in silence. The city blurred past. Traffic lights, strip malls, fast food joints. Then the buildings thinned out, replaced by stretches of empty road and sparse trees. Sarah had no idea where they were. She'd lost track after the third turn. Finally, the SUV slowed. Ahead, a chain-link fence stretched across the road, topped with barbed wire. A guard booth sat at the gate, and 2 uniformed soldiers stepped out as the vehicle approached. Hale rolled down his window, flashed a badge. The soldiers checked it, nodded, and waved them through. The gate slid open. Sarah's stomach knotted. This wasn't just a secure location. This was a military installation. Off the books. The kind of place that didn't show up on maps. The SUV continued down a narrow access road flanked by concrete barriers and security cameras. In the distance, Sarah could see a low, sprawling building, industrial, windowless, surrounded by more fencing. They pulled up to the entrance. Hale got out first, then gestured for the others to follow. Inside, the air was cold and sterile. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The walls were painted a dull gray, and the floor was polished concrete. It smelled like disinfectant and metal. Hale led them down a corridor, past several closed doors marked with numbers and letters that meant nothing to Sarah. At the end of the hall, he stopped at a door marked Conference Room B. He opened it and stepped aside. In. Adil walked in first. Sarah followed. The room was small. A table in the center, a few chairs, a monitor mounted on the wall. No windows, no decoration, just function. Hale gestured to the chairs. Sit. Adil sat. Sarah hesitated, then took the seat beside him. Hale remained standing, arms crossed. The female agent closed the door and stood beside it, blocking the exit. Okay, Hale said. Let's start with the basics. Adil, when's the last time you made contact with your unit? Adil's voice was flat. 3 months ago. Where? Kandahar Province, forward operating base near the Pakistan border. Hale nodded. And after that? I left. Without authorization. Without a choice. Hale's jaw tightened. What happened out there? Adil didn't answer right away. His hands were on the table, fingers laced together. Sarah could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his jaw worked like he was chewing on words he didn't want to say. Finally, he spoke. We were running an extraction, high-value target. Local informant who'd been feeding us intel for 6 months. Taliban found out. We had a 12-hour window to get him out before they moved on his family. Hale's expression didn't change. Go on. We went in at 0300, clean insertion, no contact. We found the informant, secured his family, started moving toward the exfil point. Adil paused. Then everything went to hell. Sarah's chest tightened. Ambush, Adil continued. They were waiting. IEDs on the primary route. Small arms fire from 3 positions. RPGs. We were pinned down for 40 minutes. Hale leaned forward. Casualties? Adil's voice went cold. 2 KIA, 3 wounded. The informant didn't make it. Neither did his family. The room went silent. We called for air support, Adil said. But the coordinates got scrambled. The strike came in hot, hit the wrong building. Civilians, women, kids. His voice cracked. We were supposed to save people. We just got them killed. Sarah's throat was tight. She wanted to reach out to say something, but the words wouldn't come. Hale's voice was quieter now. And after that? After that, I couldn't do it anymore, Adil said. I couldn't look at my team, couldn't look at myself, so I walked. You deserted. I survived. Hale stared at him for a long moment. Then he straightened, pulling out his phone. You know what happens to deserters? Yeah, Adil said. I know. Hale tapped the screen, then turned it toward Adil. Then you also know that your unit's been flagged as compromised. Intelligence leaks. Operational failures. Someone on the inside's been feeding information to the enemy. Adil's eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? 3 missions in the last 6 months, Hale said. All of them blown before they even started. Ambushes, pre-positioned assets, like someone was sending them a playbook. Sarah's pulse quickened. We've been tracking it for months, Hale continued, but we couldn't figure out the source until you disappeared. Adil's face went hard. You think I'm the leak? I think you know something, Hale said, and I think that's why you ran. Adil stood abruptly, chair scraping against the floor. I'm not a traitor. Then prove it. Adil's fist clenched. I don't have to prove anything to you. Hale didn't flinch. Actually, you do. Because right now, you're the only lead we have. And if you don't cooperate, I can make your life very difficult. Sarah stood, stepping between them. Wait, just wait. Hale's eyes flicked to her. This doesn't concern you. He came here voluntarily, Sarah said. He didn't have to. If he was running, he'd be halfway to Mexico by now. He's here because he wants help, not because he's guilty. Hale's jaw tightened. You don't know that. Yes, Sarah said. I do. Hale stared at her, then at Adil. Then he exhaled, stepping back. Fine, he said. Let's say you're not the leak. Then who is? Adil sat back down slowly. I don't know. Think. Adil rubbed his face, exhausted. There were 8 of us on that mission. 5 are still active, 2 are dead, and me. Names. Adil rattled them off. Sarah didn't recognize any of them, but Hale was typing them into his phone, cross-referencing something. Any of them have access to mission planning? Hale asked. We all did, Adil said. That's how it works. Compartmentalized intel, but everyone gets the full picture before we deploy. Hale frowned. So any one of them could have leaked it. Or someone higher up, Adil said. Someone with clearance above our pay grade. Hale's expression darkened. You're saying this goes beyond your unit. I'm saying I don't know, Adil said. But if someone's feeding intel to the enemy, they're doing it smart. No obvious trails, no stupid mistakes. Whoever it is, they know how the system works. Hale was silent for a moment. Then he turned to the female agent. Run background checks on everyone in Adil's unit. Cross-reference financial records, travel logs, communication patterns. I want everything. The agent nodded and left the room. Hale turned back to Adil. You're staying here until we figure this out. For how long? As long as it takes. Adil's jaw clenched, but he didn't argue. Hale looked at Sarah. You too. Sarah blinked. What? You signed an NDA, Hale said. You're a witness now. You stay until this is resolved. I have a job, a life. I can't just... Your supervisor's been notified, Hale said. You're on temporary leave, medical emergency. It's handled. Sarah's blood boiled. You can't just... I can, Hale said. And I did. You wanted to help Adil? Congratulations, you're in. He walked out, leaving Sarah standing there, shaking with anger. Adil's voice was quiet. I'm sorry. Sarah turned to him. Just don't. She sat back down, forcing herself to breathe. This was insane. She'd been pulled into something way over her head, and now she was stuck. But when she looked at Adil, she saw the exhaustion in his eyes, the weight of everything he'd been carrying, and she knew she couldn't walk away. Not now. The door opened again. A different agent stepped in, younger, nervous. Commander Hale wants you both moved to temporary quarters. Follow me. They walked down another corridor, past more numbered doors, until they reached a section that looked like dormitories. The agent stopped at two adjacent rooms. You'll stay here, he said, gesturing to Sarah's door, then to Adil's. You're next door. Meals are at 0700, 1200, and 1800. Don't leave this wing without clearance. He handed them each a key card and left. Sarah opened her door. The room was small. A cot, a desk, a lamp, no windows, no decoration, just like everything else in this place. She sat on the edge of the cot, head in her hands. What had she done? A knock at the door. Sarah looked up. Adil stood in the doorway. You okay? He asked. Sarah laughed bitterly. No, not even a little. Adil stepped inside, closing the door behind him. You shouldn't have come. Too late now. Sarah, I said don't. She cut him off. I'm here. I made the choice. Now we deal with it. Adil sat down on the desk chair, leaning forward, elbows on his knees. They're not going to let this go. Hale's convinced I'm involved. And if he can't prove it, he's going to bury me anyway. Then we prove you're not. How? Sarah didn't have an answer. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Adil spoke again, quieter this time. My brother would have liked you. Sarah looked up. You have a brother? Had, Adil said. He died in a training accident 5 years ago, parachute malfunction. Sarah's chest tightened. I'm sorry. Adil nodded. He was the reason I enlisted, wanted to follow in his footsteps, make him proud. He paused. Guess I screwed that up. You didn't screw anything up, Sarah said. You survived. That's not nothing. Adil looked at her. You really believe that? Yeah, Sarah said. I do. For the first time since she'd met him, Adil smiled. It was faint, barely there, but it was real. Thanks, he said. Before Sarah could respond, an alarm blared, loud, sharp, echoing through the entire facility. Adil was on his feet instantly. That's not a drill. Sarah's pulse spiked. How do you know? Because drills don't sound like that. The door burst open. The same nervous agent from before, now pale and breathing hard. Lock down. Now. Both of you, stay in your rooms. Do not leave. What's happening? Sarah demanded. Just stay here, the agent said, and slammed the door shut. Sarah heard the lock click. She turned to Adil. We're locked in? Adil was already at the door testing the handle. It didn't budge. Yeah, he said. We're locked in. Footsteps pounded down the hallway. Shouting. More alarms. Sarah's heart hammered. Adil, what's going on? Adil pressed his ear to the door, listening. Then his face went pale. Breach, he said. Someone's inside the facility. Sarah's stomach dropped. What? I can hear it, Adil said. Gunfire. Suppressed, but it's there. Sarah moved closer, straining to listen. And then she heard it too. Muffled pops, barely audible over the alarms, but unmistakable. "Oh God," she whispered. Adil stepped back from the door, scanning the room. "We need to get out of here. We're locked in." "Then we unlock it." "How?" Adil grabbed the desk chair, flipped it, and slammed one of the metal legs against the door handle. Once, twice. The handle cracked, but didn't break. "Come on," he muttered, hitting it again. Sarah grabbed the lamp, ripping the cord out of the wall. "Move!" Adil stepped aside. Sarah swung the lamp base into the lock mechanism. The plastic casing shattered, exposing the wiring underneath. Adil pulled out a thin piece of metal from his boot. A tension wrench, Sarah realized. Where the hell had he been hiding that? He jammed it into the lock, twisting, feeling for the pins. 10 seconds. 20. The lock clicked. Adil pulled the door open. The hallway was chaos. Agents running, shouting, someone screaming orders into a radio. Adil grabbed Sarah's arm. "Stay close." They moved down the corridor, keeping to the walls. Sarah's pulse was hammering so hard she could barely hear anything else. Ahead, a door burst open. 2 agents stumbled out, one clutching his shoulder, blood streaming through his fingers. "They're in the east wing," he shouted. 3 hostiles, maybe more." The other agent pulled him toward the exit, and they disappeared around the corner. Adil's grip on Sarah's arm tightened. "We need to go. Now." They ran. Down the hallway, past the conference room, past the dormitories. Sarah had no idea where they were going, but Adil seemed to know the layout like he'd studied it. They rounded a corner and nearly collided with Commander Hale. He had a sidearm drawn, face hard. "What the hell are you doing out here?" Hale barked. "Surviving," Adil shot back. "What's going on?" Hale's jaw clenched. "Armed intrusion, 3 confirmed hostiles. They breached the perimeter 8 minutes ago." "How?" "We don't know yet." Another burst of gunfire, closer now. Hale's head snapped toward the sound. "Get to the safe room," he said. "Sub-level 2, go." "Where's that?" Sarah asked. Hale pointed down the corridor. "Elevator. End of the hall. Code is 7392. Move." He didn't wait for a response. He just ran toward the gunfire. Adil grabbed Sarah's hand. "Come on!" They sprinted down the hallway. Sarah's legs burned, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Behind them, more gunfire, shouting. The sound of something heavy hitting the floor. They reached the elevator. Adil punched in the code. The doors slid open. They stepped inside. The door started to close. And then Sarah saw him. At the far end of the hallway, a man in tactical gear, face covered, rifle raised. He was looking right at them. The doors slid shut. The elevator descended. Sarah's knees buckled. Adil caught her, holding her upright. "Breathe," he said. "Just breathe." Sarah tried. Her vision swam. Her heart felt like it was going to explode. The elevator stopped. The doors opened. Sub-level 2 was darker, quieter. The walls were reinforced concrete, the air colder. Adil stepped out, scanning the area. Clear. Sarah followed, legs shaking. Ahead, a heavy steel door marked safe room. Adil pulled it open. Inside, it was small. Reinforced walls, a single bench, a monitor mounted on the wall displaying security feeds from throughout the facility. Sarah sank onto the bench, hands trembling. Adil locked the door behind them, then turned to the monitor. On the screen, Sarah could see the chaos unfolding. Agents running, hostiles moving through the corridors, gunfire, blood. And then she saw something that made her blood run cold. One of the hostiles pulled off his mask. Sarah recognized him. It was Dr. Morris, her colleague. The doctor who'd warned her about Kareem, the one who'd seemed so concerned about Adil. He was one of them. Adil saw it too. His face went pale. Son of a bitch. Sarah's mind reeled. How? Why? He's the leak, Adil said. He had access to the hospital, to Adil's records, to everything. Sarah's stomach turned. He played us. Yeah, Adil said. He did. On the monitor, Morris was moving through the facility with precision. He knew the layout, knew where the security weak points were, knew exactly where to go. And he was heading toward the sublevels, toward them. Adil's jaw clenched. We need to move. There's nowhere to go, Sarah said. We're trapped. Adil looked around the room. His eyes landed on a ventilation grate in the corner. Not yet, he said. He crossed to the grate, pulling it off. Behind it, a narrow shaft led upward into darkness. You've got to be kidding, Sarah said. You got a better idea? Sarah didn't. Adil climbed into the shaft first, then reached back for Sarah. She grabbed his hand and pulled herself up. The shaft was tight, dark. Sarah's shoulders scraped against the metal walls as she crawled forward, following Adil. Behind them, muffled through the walls, she heard the safe room door explode open. Voices. Footsteps. Morris. They were just here, he said. Find them. Sarah's breath caught. She forced herself to keep moving. The shaft branched ahead. Adil took the left path, crawling faster now. Sarah followed, her hand slipping on the metal, her breath coming in short gasps. And then she heard it. A voice. Close. Too close. Check the vents. Sarah's blood froze. Adil looked back at her, eyes hard. He mouthed one word. Run. Sarah didn't run. She crawled. Fast. Elbows scraping metal, knees banging against rivets, lungs burning. The shaft was barely wide enough for her shoulders. Adil was ahead, moving like he'd done this 100 times before. Maybe he had. Behind them, the grating scraped open. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness. I see movement, a voice said. Not Morris. Someone else. Gunfire erupted. The sound was deafening in the confined space. Bullets ricocheted off metal, sparks flying. Sarah flinched, pressing herself flat. Adil grabbed her wrist and yanked her forward. Don't stop! They crawled faster. The shaft turned sharply upward, nearly vertical. Adil braced his feet against the sides and climbed. Sarah followed, her arms shaking, sweat stinging her eyes. The flashlight beams were getting closer. Adil reached a junction point where 3 shafts converged. He paused, listening. Then he pointed right. Sarah didn't question it. She just followed. This shaft was wider, older. The metal was corroded in places, flaking rust under her palms. They crawled for what felt like an eternity, but was probably less than 2 minutes. Then Adil stopped. Ahead, another grating. He kicked it once, twice. It gave way, clattering to the floor below. Adil dropped through. Sarah heard him land, heard the grunt of impact. Then his voice, urgent. Jump, I'll catch you. Sarah didn't think. She just slid forward and dropped. Adil caught her, but barely. They both hit the ground hard, Sarah's shoulder slamming into concrete. Pain shot through her arm. Move, Adil said, pulling her up. They were in a storage room. Shelves lined the walls, stacked with boxes marked with codes Sarah didn't recognize. Adil crossed to the door, cracked it open, peered out. Clear. They slipped into another corridor. This one was different. Older construction, painted cinder block walls instead of polished concrete. Sublevel 3, maybe 4. Sarah had lost track. Adil moved fast, checking corners, testing doors. Most were locked. One opened into a maintenance closet, another into an empty office. Then they heard voices. Distant, but getting closer. Adil pulled Sarah into an alcove, pressing them both against the wall. He put a finger to his lips. 2 men passed by. Tactical gear, rifles. One of them was speaking into a radio. No sign of them on Sub 2. Checking Sub 3 now. They disappeared around the corner. Adil waited 10 seconds, then moved again. He led Sarah down a side corridor, past a rusted door marked Mechanical Access. He tried the handle. Locked. He pulled out the tension wrench again, working the lock. 5 seconds. 10. It clicked. Inside the room was filled with pipes and electrical panels. The air was hot, humid, thick with the smell of oil and metal. Adil closed the door behind them and wedged a piece of metal pipe through the handle. Sarah leaned against the wall, catching her breath. Her shoulder throbbed. Her hands were bleeding from the vent shaft. We can't keep running, she said. We don't have a choice. Yes, we do. We find Hale. We tell him what we saw. Adil shook his head. Hale might already be dead or compromised. We don't know who to trust. So what, we just hide down here until they find us? No, Adil said. "We find a way out." Sarah stared at him. "This is a military installation. There's probably only one exit, and it's crawling with hostiles." "Then we make another exit." "How?" Adil scanned the room. His eyes landed on an electrical panel. He crossed to it, yanked it open. Inside, a mess of wiring and circuit breakers. "What are you doing?" Sarah asked. "Creating a distraction." He started pulling wires, stripping insulation with his teeth. Sarah watched, heart pounding. "Adil, if you blow the power, we're stuck in the dark too." "Not if we move fast." He twisted 2 wires together, then connected them to a circuit breaker. Sparks flew. The lights in the room flickered. Then everything went black. Emergency lighting kicked in a second later, dim red bulbs casting long shadows. "Now we move," Adil said. They slipped back into the corridor. The emergency lights were spaced far apart, leaving pools of darkness. Sarah could hear shouting in the distance, confusion spreading. Adil led her toward a stairwell. They climbed. 1 flight, 2. Sarah's legs burned, but she didn't slow down. They emerged on sublevel 1. The corridor here was wider, better maintained, and it was crawling with people, agents, military personnel, some wounded, being carried by others. Someone was barking orders, trying to organize a defensive perimeter. Adil pulled Sarah behind a support column. "Stay low!" They watched as a group of agents rushed past, heading toward the lower levels. Then another group, this one carrying equipment, riot shields, tactical helmets. And then Sarah saw him. Commander Hale, alive, bloodied, but alive. He was shouting into a radio, face twisted with fury. "I don't care what it takes. Lock down every exit. No one gets out until we find them." Adil's grip on Sarah's arm tightened. Hale turned, and for a split second, his eyes swept the corridor. Sarah pressed herself against the column, holding her breath. He didn't see them. He barked another order and moved off, surrounded by armed agents. Sarah exhaled. "He's looking for us." "Yeah," Adil said. "He is." "Why? We're not the enemy." "He doesn't know that. All he knows is we disappeared during a breach. For all he knows, we're part of it." Sarah's stomach twisted. "So we're running from both sides now." "Looks like it." They moved again, slipping through the chaos. Sarah's mind was racing. They couldn't go up. Too many people. They couldn't go down. That's where the hostiles were. They were trapped between 2 forces, both hunting them. Adil led her to a service corridor, narrower, less trafficked. They passed a supply room, a janitor's closet, a break room with scattered coffee cups and half-eaten sandwiches. Then Adil stopped. Ahead, a door marked server room, authorized personnel only. He tried the handle. Locked. "Of course," he muttered. Sarah glanced back down the corridor. Footsteps. Getting closer. "Adil." "I know." He worked the lock faster this time. Sarah kept watch, pulse hammering. The lock clicked just as voices rounded the corner. They slipped inside, closing the door behind them. The server room was dark except for blinking green and red lights on dozens of racks. The air was cool, humming with the sound of fans and hard drives. Adil moved deeper into the room, scanning for another exit. There wasn't one. Sarah's hands were shaking. "We're cornered." "Not yet." He crossed to one of the server racks, pulling open a panel. Inside, a tangle of cables and blinking lights. "What are you doing?" Sarah asked. "Buying us leverage." He started disconnecting cables. One rack went dark, then another. Sarah realized what he was doing. "You're shutting down their systems." "Not all of them, just the ones they need. Adil, if you crash their security protocols, then they'll have bigger problems than finding us." He pulled another cable. More lights went dark. Outside, alarms started blaring again. Different this time, higher pitched, more urgent. Sarah heard shouting, running footsteps. Adil kept working. He pulled a USB drive from his pocket. Where the hell had that come from? And plugged it into one of the still active terminals. "What is that?" Sarah asked. "Backup plan." He typed rapidly, lines of code scrolling across the screen. Sarah didn't understand any of it, but she could see the effect, security feeds going offline, access logs being erased. "How do you know how to do this?" she asked. "Part of the training," Adil said. "You'd be surprised what they teach you." The terminal beeped. Adil pulled the drive and pocketed it. Then the door burst open. 3 men, tactical gear, rifles raised. One of them was Dr. Morris. He smiled when he saw them. "There you are." Adil stepped in front of Sarah, hands raised but ready. Morris gestured with his rifle. "Step away from the servers." Adil didn't move. Morris's smile faded. "I said step away." "Why are you doing this?" Sarah asked, her voice shaking. Morris looked at her. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Regret, maybe, or just exhaustion. "Because they don't pay us enough to die for their secrets," he said. "And someone's willing to pay a lot more for the right information." "You're selling intelligence," Adil said. "Was," Morris corrected. "This is the exit strategy." "By killing everyone here?" "By making it look like a terrorist attack. Blame falls on some extremist group that doesn't exist. We disappear with the data. Everyone wins. Except the people you murdered." Morris shrugged. "Casualties of war." Sarah's blood boiled. "You're not a soldier. You're a coward." Morris's expression hardened. "Says the nurse who got in over her head." He raised his rifle. Adil moved. He was faster than Sarah thought possible. He grabbed a server rack and yanked it forward, cables snapping, the entire unit toppling toward Morris and his men. They scattered. One of them fired, bullets tearing through metal and plastic. Sparks flew. Something exploded in a shower of glass and smoke. Adil grabbed Sarah and pulled her down behind another rack. Bullets punched through the air above them, shattering screens and ripping through cables. "Stay down!" Adil shouted. He grabbed a piece of broken metal, a corner bracket from the fallen rack, and hurled it. It caught one of the gunmen in the face. He went down hard. Morris fired again. The bullet grazed Adil's shoulder. He grunted, but didn't stop moving. Sarah's mind went blank. Training kicked in. She grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall, yanked the pin, and sprayed it directly at Morris. White foam exploded across his face. He stumbled back, cursing, trying to wipe his eyes. Adil tackled the second gunman, driving him into a server rack. The man's rifle clattered to the floor. Adil grabbed it, spun, and fired a 3-round burst into the ceiling. Everyone froze. "Next one goes center mass," Adil said, voice cold. Morris wiped foam from his eyes, glaring. The gunman Adil had tackled was on the ground, groaning. The one Sarah had hit with the bracket wasn't moving. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," Morris said. "Good," Adil replied. Morris's radio crackled, a voice distorted by static. "Target acquired, sublevel 1, moving to intercept." Morris smiled. "You hear that? My backup's on the way. You've got maybe 2 minutes before this room is flooded with people who won't hesitate to put you down." "Then we've got 2 minutes," Adil said. He gestured toward the door with the rifle. "Move." Morris didn't budge. "You're not going to shoot me. Try me." Morris stared at him. Then he laughed. "You really think you're getting out of here alive? Even if you make it past me, past my team, Hale's locked down every exit. There's no way out." "We'll see." Adil fired a round into the floor at Morris's feet. Morris jumped back. "Move," Adil repeated. This time, Morris moved. They backed out of the server room, Adil keeping the rifle trained on Morris. Sarah stayed close, her hands still shaking from the adrenaline. The corridor was chaos. Smoke drifted from somewhere nearby. Alarms blared. People were shouting, running. Adil shoved Morris forward. "Where's the nearest exit?" "Like I'd tell you." Adil pressed the rifle barrel against Morris's spine. "Last chance." Morris's jaw clenched. "North side, loading dock, but it's locked down. You'll never make it." "We'll take our chances." They moved down the corridor, Morris in front, Adil behind him, Sarah bringing up the rear. Every shadow felt like a threat. Every sound made her flinch. They reached a junction, 3 corridors branching off. Adil hesitated, scanning. "Which way?" Sarah asked. "Left," Morris said. Adil looked at Sarah. "He's lying." "How do you know?" "Because he wants us to go left." Adil pushed Morris to the right. They moved fast, rounding corners, passing abandoned offices and supply rooms. Then they heard it. Boots. Heavy. Running. A squad of soldiers appeared at the far end of the corridor. Not Morris's men. Real military. Hale's people. "Contact!" one of them shouted. Adil shoved Morris forward. "Run!" They ran. Bullets tore through the air. Sarah ducked, her ears ringing. Adil returned fire, short controlled bursts, keeping their heads down. They burst through a door into a loading bay. Concrete floor, metal roll-up doors. Forklifts and pallets stacked with supplies. Adil slammed the door behind them, looking for something to barricade it with. Sarah grabbed a pallet jack and wedged it under the handle. "That won't hold long," she said. "It doesn't have to." Adil crossed to the roll-up door, scanning the controls. A keypad. Red light. Locked. He looked at Morris. "Code." Morris smiled. "No." Adil raised the rifle. "You won't shoot me," Morris said. "You need me." "I need the code," Adil said. "Not you." The door behind them shuddered. Someone was ramming it. Morris's smile faded. He looked at the keypad, then at Adil. 68295. Adil punched it in. The light turned green. The door started to rise. Outside, darkness, cold air, the sound of distant traffic. They were at the back of the facility. A chain-link fence separated the loading bay from a wooded area beyond. Adil grabbed Morris and shoved him toward Sarah. "Watch him." Sarah pulled Morris back, hands shaking. Morris didn't resist. He just watched, that same tired smile on his face. Adil ran to the fence, testing it. 12 feet high, topped with barbed wire. Behind them, the door exploded inward. Soldiers poured through. "Stop! Hands up!" Adil turned, raised his hands, but he didn't drop the rifle. Commander Hale stepped forward, sidearm drawn. His face was hard, eyes cold. "Kane," he said, "put it down." "Can't do that." "You're surrounded. There's no way out." "There's always a way out." Hale's jaw tightened. "I don't want to shoot you." "Then don't." "You're a deserter, a suspect in an intelligence leak, and now you're holding a hostage. You've got about 5 seconds to make the smart choice." Adil glanced at Sarah. She saw something in his eyes, a decision being made. "Sarah," he said quietly, "when I move, you run. Don't look back. Don't stop." "Adil." 3 seconds, Hale said. "I'm not leaving you," Sarah said. "You have to." 2. Adil turned back to Hale. "You want to know who the leak is?" Hale's expression didn't change. 1. "It's not me," Adil said. "It's him." He pointed at Morris. Morris laughed. "That's your play. Blame the hostage." "He's not a hostage," Adil said. "He's the one who orchestrated this whole thing. The breach, the attack, all of it." Hale's eyes flicked to Morris. "That true?" Morris shrugged. "He's desperate. He'll say anything." "Check his gear," Adil said. "He's carrying encrypted drives. Intel he was planning to sell." Hale gestured to 2 soldiers. "Search him." Morris's smile vanished. "You don't have the authority." The soldiers grabbed him, yanking him forward. One of them patted him down, pulling a small metal case from his vest. He opened it. Inside 3 USB drives. Hale's face went dark. "What's on those?" Morris didn't answer. Hale stepped closer. "I asked you a question." Morris's jaw clenched. Then he lunged. He grabbed the soldier's sidearm, yanked it free, and fired. The shot caught Hale in the chest. He went down hard. Chaos erupted. Soldiers opened fire. Morris dove behind a forklift, returning fire. Adil grabbed Sarah and pulled her down. Bullets tore through the air above them, punching through metal and concrete. Sarah's ears were ringing. She couldn't hear anything except the gunfire and her own heartbeat. Adil was moving. He fired the rifle, covering their retreat. Sarah crawled toward the fence, her entire body shaking. Morris was pinned down but still fighting. 2 soldiers moved to flank him. He shot one, wounded the other. Then Adil was beside Sarah, pulling her up. "Go!" They ran toward the fence. Adil boosted Sarah up, ignoring the barbed wire tearing at her clothes. She scrambled over, dropping hard on the other side. Adil followed. He cleared the top just as a bullet caught him in the leg. He fell, hitting the ground with a sickening thud. Sarah rushed to him. Blood was spreading across his pants, dark and fast. "I'm fine," Adil said through gritted teeth. "Keep moving." "You're shot." "I know, move." She pulled him up, looping his arm over her shoulders. They stumbled into the woods, branches whipping at their faces. Behind them, the gunfire continued. Then it stopped. Sarah didn't look back. They moved deeper into the trees. Sarah's arms were burning, Adil's weight dragging her down. But she didn't stop. They reached a clearing. Sarah lowered Adil to the ground, gasping for breath. His leg was bad. The bullet had gone clean through, but he was losing blood fast. "We need to stop the bleeding," Sarah said. She ripped fabric from her shirt, tying it tight above the wound. Adil hissed, but didn't pull away. "That'll hold for now," she said, "but you need a hospital." "Can't," Adil said. "They'll be watching every hospital in the area." "Then what?" Adil pulled out the USB drive he'd taken from the server room. He pressed it into Sarah's hand. "This has everything," he said. Proof of the leak. Proof Morris was selling intel. Proof I'm not the traitor." Sarah stared at it. "What am I supposed to do with this?" "Get it to someone who can use it. Someone outside the system." "Who?" "I don't know," Adil said. "But you'll figure it out." Sarah's chest tightened. "You're talking like you're not coming with me." Adil didn't answer. Sarah, listen to me. They're going to come looking, and when they do, they'll find me. But they don't need to find you. I'm not leaving you. You have to." "No." Adil grabbed her hand, squeezing tight. "You've already saved my life once. Don't throw yours away trying to do it again." Tears stung Sarah's eyes. "You don't get to decide that." "Yeah," Adil said. "I do." Before Sarah could respond, she heard it. Voices. Distant, but getting closer. Flashlights cutting through the trees. They were being hunted. Adil pushed her away. "Go! Now!" Sarah stood, clutching the USB drive. "Go!" Adil shouted. She ran. Branches tore at her face. Her lungs burned. But she didn't stop. Behind her she heard shouting. A gunshot. Then silence. Sarah kept running, tears streaming down her face, the USB drive clutched in her fist. She didn't know where she was going. She didn't know who to trust. But she knew one thing. She was going to finish this. For Adil. For her brother. For everyone the system had failed. She burst out of the woods onto a 2-lane highway. Cars blurred past, headlights blinding. She stumbled to the shoulder, gasping, looking back at the dark tree line. No one followed. She turned and started walking, one foot in front of the other, the USB drive burning in her palm. A car slowed beside her. The window rolled down. "You okay, miss?" Sarah turned. It was Dr. Kareem. Sarah stared at Dr. Kareem through the passenger window, her body frozen between fight and flight. Blood streaked her arms. Her clothes were torn. The USB drive felt like a grenade in her clenched fist. Kareem's eyes widened. "What happened to you?" Sarah's voice came out hoarse. "Drive." "What?" "Drive. Now." Kareem hesitated, then reached across and pushed the door open. Sarah climbed in, slamming it shut. She didn't put on her seatbelt. She just pressed herself against the seat, eyes locked on the tree line. Kareem pulled back onto the highway. "Sarah, you need to tell me—" "Just drive," she said. "Get us away from here." He accelerated. The facility disappeared behind them, swallowed by darkness and distance. For 2 miles, neither of them spoke. Sarah watched the side mirror, waiting for headlights to appear, for vehicles to pursue, for the world to come crashing down again. Nothing came. Kareem's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. "I'm taking you to the hospital." "No." "You're hurt. I need you to listen," Sarah said, turning to face him. "The hospital isn't safe. Nowhere is safe right now." Kareem glanced at her, then back at the road. "What are you talking about?" Sarah took a breath. Her hands were shaking. "How did you know where to find me?" "I didn't. I was heading home. I saw you on the side of the road." He paused. "Sarah, what's going on?" Where's Adil Kane? Those men who took you. One of them is dead, Sarah said flatly. Maybe more. I don't know. Kareem nearly swerved off the road. What? There was an attack on the facility. People with guns, military-grade weapons. They were after Adil. She swallowed hard. Dr. Morris was one of them. Kareem's face went pale. That's impossible. I saw him. He was leading them. Morris? Our Morris? The resident? He's not a resident, Sarah said. He's a traitor. He's been selling classified intelligence. And tonight he tried to kill everyone who knew about it. Kareem was silent for a long moment. Then he pulled over, tires crunching on gravel. He put the car in park and turned to her. Start from the beginning, he said. All of it. Sarah told him about Adil's background, about the facility, about Hale and the interrogation, about the breach, the gunfight, Morris pulling the trigger, about Adil taking a bullet so she could escape. When she finished, Kareem sat back, staring through the windshield at nothing. This is insane, he said quietly. I know. You're telling me there's a classified military installation 40 minutes outside the city and no one knows about it? Now you do. Kareem rubbed his face. And you have proof of what Morris did? Sarah opened her hand, showing him the USB drive. Everything's on here. Encrypted files, communication logs, financial transfers. It's all there. Kareem stared at it. What are you going to do with it? I don't know yet. You should go to the police. Sarah laughed bitterly. And tell them what? That I broke into a secret military facility and stole classified data? They'd arrest me before I finished the sentence. Then who? FBI? Homeland Security? Morris worked with people inside the system, Sarah said. For all I know, they're compromised too. Kareem's jaw tightened. So you're just going to sit on this? Let him get away with it? No, Sarah said. I'm going to expose him, but I need to be smart about it. Kareem looked at her for a long moment. Then he pulled back onto the road. Where are we going? Sarah asked. My place, Kareem said. You need rest, medical attention, and a plan. Sarah wanted to argue, but exhaustion was crashing over her like a wave. She leaned her head against the window, watching streetlights blur past. Why are you helping me? She asked quietly. Kareem didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was different, softer. Because I was wrong about you, he said. At the hospital, I dismissed you, treated you like you didn't know what you were doing, and you ended up being the only one who could reach that patient. Sarah closed her eyes. His name was Adil. I know. Silence stretched between them. Is he dead? Kareem asked. Sarah's throat tightened. I don't know. Kareem's apartment was in a quiet neighborhood, second floor of a converted brownstone. He led Sarah inside, locking the door behind them. The place was neat but sparse. Minimal furniture, medical textbooks stacked on shelves, a framed diploma on the wall. Bathroom's down the hall, Kareem said. Clean yourself up. I'll get the first aid kit. Sarah nodded and walked to the bathroom. She caught her reflection in the mirror and barely recognized herself. Face streaked with dirt and blood, hair matted, eyes hollow. She turned on the faucet and scrubbed her hands until the water ran clear. Then her face. Then her arms. The cut stung, but she didn't stop until every trace of the facility was gone. When she came out, Kareem had set up a makeshift examination area in the living room. Gauze, antiseptic, bandages. Sit, he said. Sarah sat. Kareem worked methodically, cleaning the cuts on her arms, checking for embedded debris. His hands were steady, professional. You've got some deep lacerations here, he said. They should be sutured. Just bandage them. Sarah, I don't have time for stitches. Kareem sighed but didn't argue. He applied butterfly closures instead, then wrapped her forearms in clean gauze. When he finished, he sat back. You should eat something. I'm not hungry. You need to keep your strength up. Sarah looked at him. What I need is to figure out what to do with this. She pulled out the USB drive. Kareem stared at it. Can I see what's on it? Sarah hesitated, then handed it over. Kareem crossed to his laptop, plugged the drive in. A password prompt appeared. "It's encrypted," he said. "Can you crack it?" "I'm a doctor, not a hacker." Sarah stood, crossing to the laptop. She stared at the prompt, thinking. Adel had given her this drive. He'd said it contained proof, but he hadn't given her the password. She tried the obvious ones. His name, his unit designation. Nothing worked. Then she remembered something, a phrase he'd used, back in the hospital when she'd first approached him. She typed it in. The screen unlocked. Kareem's eyes widened. "How did you—" "Ah!" "Lucky guess." Files filled the screen. Hundreds of them. Communications, financial records, operational reports. Sarah clicked one open. It was an email chain. Morris communicating with someone using an encrypted account, discussing payment schedules, intel drops, operational timelines. Sarah's stomach turned. He was selling everything. Mission details, asset locations, troop movements. Kareem scrolled through more files. This goes back years. He's been doing this for years. Sarah clicked another file. A bank statement, offshore accounts, millions of dollars. Who was he selling to? Kareem asked. Sarah opened another email. The recipient's name was redacted, but the header contained metadata, an IP address, a location trace. Russia, Sarah said quietly. He was selling to Russian intelligence. Kareem sat back, stunned. This is treason. Yeah, Sarah said. It is. She kept digging. More emails, more transactions, and then she found something that made her blood run cold. A mission report, dated 3 months ago. Kandahar province, the mission Adil had described, the one that went wrong, the one that got people killed. Morris had leaked the details to the enemy. He'd set up the ambush. He'd caused the mission to fail. He'd gotten Adil's team killed. Sarah's hands were shaking. He did it. He's the reason Adil's unit was compromised, the reason they walked into that ambush. Kareem read over her shoulder. His face went hard. We need to take this to someone. Now. Who? I don't know. A journalist? Someone outside the system? Sarah thought about it. Then she pulled out her phone. It was cracked, the screen barely functional, but it still worked. She opened her contacts, found a name she hadn't called in years. Rebecca Frost, investigative reporter. The one who'd broken the story about her brother's unit, the one who'd pushed for answers when the government stonewalled. Sarah dialed. It rang 4 times. Then a voice, groggy with sleep. Hello? Rebecca, it's Sarah Bennett. A pause. Sarah? It's 3 a.m. I know, I need your help. Another pause, then Rebecca's voice sharpened. What's going on? Sarah took a breath. I have a story for you. Classified intelligence leak, treason, dead soldiers, and proof. Where are you? Sarah gave her Kareem's address. I'll be there in an hour, Rebecca said, and hung up. Sarah set the phone down. Kareem was staring at her. You trust her? He asked. I don't trust anyone, Sarah said, but she's the best chance we have. They waited in tense silence. Sarah paced the living room, unable to sit still. Kareem made coffee. Neither of them drank. The clock on the wall ticked loud enough to fill the room. 53 minutes later, there was a knock at the door. Kareem checked the peephole, then opened it. Rebecca Frost looked exactly like Sarah remembered. Mid-40s, sharp eyes, graying hair pulled back in a tight bun. She carried a leather messenger bag and moved like someone who'd been chasing stories for 20 years. She stepped inside, glancing around. Then her eyes landed on Sarah. You look like hell, Rebecca said. Feel worse. Rebecca set her bag down. All right, show me what you've got. Sarah handed her the USB drive. Rebecca plugged it into her own laptop, her expression unreadable as she scanned the files. 5 minutes passed in silence. Then 10. Rebecca's fingers moved across the keyboard, opening files, cross-referencing data, building a mental map of everything she was seeing. Finally, she looked up. This is real? Every word, Sarah said. Rebecca's jaw tightened. Do you know what you're sitting on? This isn't just a leak. This is a systemic failure. Multiple agencies, years of corruption. Can you publish it? Rebecca leaned back. Not without corroboration. I need sources, witnesses, something beyond just files on a drive. I'm a witness, Sarah said. I was there. You're also a suspect, Rebecca said bluntly. The moment this goes public, they'll come after you, arrest you for theft of classified materials, espionage. They'll bury you before you can testify. Sarah's chest tightened. So what do I do? Rebecca thought for a moment. We need more. Someone on the inside, someone who can verify these files independently. Like who? Commander Hale, Rebecca said. He's the one who brought you in, right? If he's still alive, we need his testimony. He was shot, Sarah said. I don't know if he survived. Rebecca's expression hardened. Then we find out. She pulled out her phone, making a call. Sarah couldn't hear the other end, but Rebecca's questions were rapid fire. Hospital admissions, military casualties, trauma alerts. After 3 calls, she had an answer. Hale's alive, Rebecca said. Critical condition. They medevaced him to Walter Reed. That's in D.C., Kareem said. Yeah, Rebecca replied, and that's where we're going. Sarah stared at her. We can't just walk into a military hospital. No, Rebecca said, but I can. I've got press credentials, access to restricted areas, and a contact in administration who owes me a favor. She looked at Sarah. But I need you to come with me. If Hale wakes up, he needs to see you. He needs to know you're the one who got out, that you have the proof. Sarah's mind raced. Going to D.C. meant exposure, risk. If Morris had people inside the system, they'd be watching. But if she didn't go, this story died. And Adil's sacrifice meant nothing. Okay, Sarah said. I'll go. Rebecca nodded. We leave in 2 hours. Pack light. Kareem stood. I'm coming too. Rebecca raised an eyebrow. Why? Because Sarah's going to need medical support if this goes sideways, Kareem said. And because I'm not letting her walk into this alone. Sarah looked at him, surprised. Kareem met her gaze. I owe you that much. Rebecca shrugged. Fine, but we move fast. No stopping, no detours. Sarah used the 2 hours to shower and change into clothes Kareem had found for her. A plain t-shirt and jeans that didn't quite fit but were clean. She pulled her hair back, trying to look less like someone who'd just crawled out of a war zone. When she came back to the living room, Rebecca had made copies of the USB drive, each one encrypted separately. She handed one to Sarah. Keep this on you at all times, Rebecca said. If something happens to me, you get this to my editor. His contact info is on the back of my card. Sarah took the card, sliding it into her pocket along with the drive. They left before sunrise, driving through empty highways as the city woke up behind them. Rebecca drove, Sarah in the passenger seat, Kareem in the back. No one spoke much. The weight of what they were about to do hung over them like a storm cloud. 4 hours later, they reached the outskirts of Washington, D.C. Rebecca navigated through traffic with the precision of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. She pulled into the parking garage of a nondescript office building. We're not going straight to the hospital, she said. First, we make copies. She led them to a small office on the 3rd floor. Inside, a man in his 60s sat at a desk cluttered with papers and camera equipment. He looked up when they entered. Rebecca, he said, you're early. This can't wait, Martin. Martin's eyes flicked to Sarah and Kareem. Who are they? Sources, Rebecca said. I need you to duplicate this drive. 3 copies, encrypted, stored in separate locations. Martin took the USB drive, examining it. What's on it? Nothing you want to know about? Martin smirked. That bad? Worse. He plugged the drive into his computer, fingers flying across the keyboard. The room was silent except for the clicking of keys and the hum of hard drives. Sarah watched the door, half expecting federal agents to burst through any second. 20 minutes later, Martin handed Rebecca 3 identical drives. Done, he said. But Rebecca, if this is what I think it is, Rebecca said, which is why you never saw us. Martin nodded slowly. Be careful. They left, driving straight to Walter Reed. Rebecca parked in the visitor lot, then turned to Sarah. You stay here, she said. Let me scope it out first. I'm coming with you. Sarah, I'm coming, Rebecca sighed. Fine, but keep your head down. And if anyone asks, you're my assistant. They walked into the hospital together, Kareem trailing behind. Rebecca's press credentials got them past the front desk. She asked for the trauma wing, and a nurse directed them to the 4th floor. The hallway was quiet. Too quiet. Sarah's instincts screamed that something was wrong. Rebecca stopped at the nurse's station. I'm looking for Commander James Hale. Admitted 2 days ago, gunshot wound. The nurse checked her computer. Room 427, but he's in restricted access. No visitors without clearance. Rebecca flashed her credentials. Press. I have authorization. The nurse frowned. I'll need to verify. A voice cut in from behind them. That won't be necessary. Sarah turned. Standing in the hallway was a woman in a dark suit, federal agent by the look of her. She had cold eyes and a badge clipped to her belt. Agent Daniels, the woman said. NSA. You're Sarah Bennett. It wasn't a question. Sarah's pulse spiked. Who's asking? Daniels stepped closer. You're wanted for questioning in connection with a security breach at a classified facility. I'm going to need you to come with me. Rebecca stepped between them. On what grounds? Theft of classified materials, unauthorized access to restricted areas, obstruction of a federal investigation. Daniel's gaze didn't leave Sarah. Should I go on? You don't have a warrant, Rebecca said. Don't need one, Daniels replied. National security matter. She's considered a flight risk. Kareem moved closer to Sarah. She's not going anywhere without a lawyer. Daniels smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. That's cute, but this isn't a negotiation. She gestured, and 2 more agents appeared from a side corridor, both armed. Sarah's mind raced. This was it. They'd walked straight into a trap, but then another voice echoed down the hallway. Agent Daniels. Everyone turned. Commander Hale stood at the end of the corridor, leaning heavily on a crutch. His chest was bandaged, his face pale, but his eyes were sharp. Stand down, Hale said. Daniels frowned. Sir, with all due respect, I said stand down. Daniels hesitated, then gestured to the other agents. They stepped back, but didn't leave. Their hands stayed near their weapons. Hale limped forward, stopping in front of Sarah. For a moment, he just stared at her. His eyes searched her face like he was trying to confirm something. Then he spoke. You made it out. Sarah nodded. Barely. Hale's gaze shifted to Rebecca. And you are? Rebecca Frost, investigative journalist. Hale's jaw tightened. Of course you are. He looked back at Sarah. Where's Kane? Sarah's throat closed. We got separated. He took a bullet. I ran. Hale was silent for a moment. Then he nodded. Smart. He turned to Daniels. Bennett's not a suspect. She's a witness, and she's under my protection. Daniels' expression hardened. Commander, you don't have the authority. Try me, Hale said coldly. The air in the hallway went electric. Daniels stared at Hale, jaw working. Then she pulled out her phone and stepped away, speaking in low tones. Hale gestured toward his room. Inside, all of you. They followed him in. Hale closed the door, then sank into a chair, wincing. His breathing was labored, and Sarah could see fresh blood seeping through the bandages under his hospital gown. You've got about 5 minutes before someone higher up the chain overrides me, he said. So talk fast. Sarah pulled out one of the USB drives. Morris was the leak. He's been selling intelligence for years. To the Russians. I have proof. Hale took the drive, turning it over in his hands. How'd you get this? Adil pulled it from the facility servers before we ran. Hale's expression darkened. Kane's resourceful. I'll give him that. He's also the reason I'm alive, Sarah said, and the reason you have that proof. Hale looked at her, really looked. You know what happens if this goes public? The fallout's going to be massive. Careers destroyed, investigations, trials. People will go to prison. Some of them might be people we know. Good, Sarah said. People died because of what Morris did. They deserve justice. Hale was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. All right, I'll testify. But we do this by the book. No leaks, no press, until we've got the case locked down. Rebecca stepped forward. With all due respect, Commander, the book's what got us here. Morris had people inside the system. If we wait for official channels, this evidence disappears. Someone buries it. Someone makes a deal. And the people who died stayed dead while the guilty walk free. Hale's jaw clenched. So what are you suggesting? I publish, Rebecca said. Tonight. Full story. Documents, testimony, everything. That'll make you a target. I've been a target before. Hale stared at her, then at Sarah. His expression shifted, something like resignation settling over his features. Do it, he said finally, but make sure it's airtight, because once this breaks, there's no going back. Rebecca nodded. She pulled out her laptop, already typing. Kareem moved to the window, keeping watch. Sarah sat down, suddenly exhausted. Hale turned to her. What about a deal? You said he was hit. Sarah's chest tightened. In the leg. He lost a lot of blood. I tried to stop it, but... Her voice cracked. I had to leave him. Hale's expression softened. You did what you had to. Did I? Sarah whispered. He saved my life, and I left him bleeding in the woods. If you'd stayed, you'd both be dead, Hale said, and Morris would still be walking free. Sarah didn't respond. She couldn't. Hale leaned forward. I've got people looking. Discreetly. If Kane's alive, we'll find him. And if he's not... Hale didn't answer. The door opened. Agent Daniels stepped back in, phone still in hand. Her expression was hard. Commander, I've been instructed to inform you that this matter has been escalated. Justice Department is taking over. All witnesses are to be detained pending investigation. On whose authority? Hale demanded. Deputy Director Lawson, NSA. Hale's face went pale. Lawson. Sarah saw the recognition in his eyes. You know him? Yeah, Hale said quietly. I know him. Daniels moved toward Sarah. Ms. Bennett, you need to come with me. Hale stood, blocking her path. She's not going anywhere. Commander, if you obstruct this investigation, Lawson's dirty, Hale said. He's part of it. The room went silent. Daniels stared at him. That's a serious accusation. It's the truth, Hale said. He turned to Sarah. Show her. Sarah handed Daniels the USB drive. Check the files. Lawson's name is all over them. Financial transfers, meeting logs. He's been covering for Morris for years. Daniels took the drive, uncertainty flickering across her face. I'll need to verify. Then verify, Hale said. But do it fast, because if Lawson knows we're onto him, he'll burn everything. Daniels hesitated. Then she plugged the drive into her phone, scrolling through files. Her expression shifted from skepticism to shock to anger. Son of a bitch, she muttered. She looked up at Hale. How deep does this go? Deeper than I thought, Hale said. Daniels made a call, speaking rapidly in code Sarah didn't understand. When she hung up, her jaw was set. I'm pulling you into protective custody, she said to Sarah. All of you. Secure location. No communication with the outside until we sort this out. No, Rebecca said. I publish first. Daniels turned to her. If you publish, you blow the investigation wide open. They'll scatter. We'll lose them. If I don't publish, you'll bury it, Rebecca shot back, just like every other story that threatened the wrong people. Daniels' eyes narrowed. You don't trust me. I don't trust anyone, Rebecca said, but I trust the public. Once this is out there, it can't be hidden. Daniels looked at Hale. Your call, Commander. Hale was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. Let her publish. Daniels exhaled sharply. You're making a mistake. Maybe, Hale said, but it's mine to make. Rebecca's fingers flew across the keyboard. 20 minutes later, she hit send. The story went live on 3 major news outlets simultaneously. Government leak exposed, treason, corruption, and cover-up. Inside Defense Intelligence. Within minutes, it was everywhere. Cable news, social media, international press. Sarah watched on Hale's hospital TV as anchors scrambled to digest the story, as pundits started speculating, as the world started reacting. Daniel's phone exploded with calls. She stepped into the hallway, shouting orders. Hale sank back into his chair, looking older than he had 5 minutes ago. Well, that's done. Sarah stared at the screen. Photos of Morris, photos of the facility, redacted documents with enough visible to prove the story. Her phone buzzed. Then again, and again. Reporters, lawyers, people she didn't know. She ignored all of them. On the TV, a breaking news banner scrolled across the screen. Dr. Marcus Morris, wanted for treason and multiple counts of murder, apprehended at Dulles International Airport attempting to board a flight to Moscow. Sarah's hands clenched. Good. Kareem sat beside her, exhausted. It's done. Yeah, Sarah said, it is. But it didn't feel finished, not yet. Daniels came back in, face grim. Deputy Director Lawson just resigned. 3 other NSA officials placed on administrative leave. FBI's opening a full investigation. Hale nodded slowly. That's a start. There's more, Daniel said. We've got reports of military personnel being detained across multiple bases. Looks like this network was bigger than we thought. Sarah's stomach dropped. How big? We're still sorting through it, Daniel said. But right now, we're looking at dozens of people. Maybe more. The weight of it settled over the room. This wasn't just Morris. This was an entire system that had rotted from the inside. Sarah stood, crossing to the window. Outside, the sun was setting. The city looked normal. People going about their lives, unaware of how close they'd come to losing something they didn't even know was at risk. Her phone buzzed again. This time, she looked. A text from an unknown number. He's alive. Sarah's breath caught. She stared at the screen, hands shaking. Another text appeared. Meet me. Midnight. Old Pier, South End. Come alone. Sarah showed Kareem the message. His eyes widened. It could be a trap, he said. I know. You're going anyway. Sarah looked at Hale. I need to go. Hale studied her. You think it's Kane? I hope so. And if it's not? Sarah didn't answer. Hale sighed. Take Agent Daniels with you. At least give yourself a fighting chance. Sarah shook her head. The message said alone. Sarah said, I'm going, she said, with or without permission. Hale stared at her, then he nodded. All right, but you wear a wire, and we stay close. First sign of trouble, we move in. Sarah agreed. At 11:30, Sarah stood on the old pier at the edge of the city, wind whipping off the water. The place was abandoned, rotting wood and rusted chains. Fog rolled in from the bay, thick and cold. She wore a small transmitter under her jacket. Daniels and a tactical team were positioned 2 blocks away, listening. Sarah waited. The minutes crawled by. 11:45, 11:50, 11:55. At exactly midnight, footsteps echoed behind her, slow, uneven. Sarah turned. A figure emerged from the fog, limping, bandaged, Adil. Sarah's breath hitched. You're alive. Barely, Adil said. He stopped a few feet away, eyes scanning the area. Old habits. You shouldn't have come. Neither should you. Adil's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Fair. Sarah stepped closer. She wanted to run to him, to make sure he was real, but she held herself back. Morris was arrested. The story's out. It's over. Adil's expression darkened. It's not over. Sarah's stomach dropped. What? Adil pulled out a folded piece of paper, handing it to her. His fingers brushed hers, and she felt how cold he was, how much he was struggling just to stand. Sarah unfolded the paper. A list of names, government officials, military officers, intelligence operatives. Some she recognized. Most she didn't. Morris was just one piece, Adil said. The network's bigger than we thought. Sarah stared at the list, her blood running cold. How deep does this go? Adil's eyes were dark. All the way to the top. Sarah's hand started shaking. Where did you get this? Server backup, Adil said. I pulled it before we ran. Didn't know what I had until I could decrypt it. He paused. Sarah, these people, they've been running this operation for years, selling intelligence, sabotaging missions, getting soldiers killed, and they've been protected the whole time. Sarah looked at the names again. One jumped out at her. General Richard Tate, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. This can't be right, she whispered. It is, Adil said. I verified it 3 times. Sarah's mind reeled. If this was true, if the chairman himself was involved, then everything was compromised. Every investigation, every prosecution, every attempt at justice. What do we do? She asked. Adil's jaw clenched. We finish it. How? Same way you did with Morris, Adil said. We expose them, all of them, at once. No warning, no chance to cover it up. Sarah looked at the list again. This will tear the military apart. Better torn apart than rotten from the inside. Sarah met his eyes. She saw the exhaustion there, the pain, the determination that was the only thing keeping him upright. You're hurt, she said. You need a hospital. I'm fine. You're not fine. You can barely stand. Adil's expression softened. I've had worse. That's not the point. Sarah, you saved my life, she said. Let me return the favor. Adil was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. Okay, but we do this together. No more running alone. Sarah smiled despite everything. Deal. She pressed the transmitter under her jacket. Daniels, you get all that? Static. Then Daniels' voice, tight with tension. Copy. We're moving in. Within minutes, vehicles surrounded the pier. Agents, military police. Daniels led them, weapon drawn but lowered. She looked at Adil. Kane? Yeah. You look like hell. So I've been told. Daniels gestured to the paramedics. Get him checked out. And someone get me a secure line to the Attorney General. We've got work to do. As Adil was led away to an ambulance, he looked back at Sarah. She nodded. He nodded back. Daniels turned to Sarah. You just handed us the biggest espionage case in 50 years. Good, Sarah said. Make it count. 3 days later, Sarah stood in a conference room at the Department of Justice. On one side of the table, the Attorney General and a team of federal prosecutors. On the other, Rebecca Frost with her recorder running. And at the head of the table, Commander Hale, recovered enough to testify, angry enough to burn it all down. Let's be clear, the Attorney General said. What you're alleging is treason at the highest levels of government. If you're wrong, careers end, yours included. We're not wrong, Hale said. He slid a folder across the table. That's everything. Names, dates, transactions, communications. It's all there. The Attorney General opened the folder. His face went pale as he read. How many? He asked quietly. 47 confirmed, Hale said. Another 23 under investigation. The room was silent. Then the Attorney General closed the folder and looked up. We proceed. Full investigation, grand jury, public trials. Sarah exhaled. It wasn't over. Not yet. But it was starting. 2 weeks later, the arrests began. Live on national television, generals, senators, intelligence officers. All of them led away in handcuffs while cameras rolled. General Richard Tate was arrested in his office at the Pentagon. The footage played on every news channel for days. Morris was formally charged with treason, espionage, and 14 counts of murder. He pled not guilty. His trial was set for 6 months out. Sarah watched it all from Kareem's apartment. She'd been placed on administrative leave from the hospital, not fired, but not exactly welcome either. Too much attention, too much scandal. She didn't care. She had other things to focus on, like the text message that arrived one evening. Coffee? There's a place near the hospital, tomorrow, 10 a.m. It was from Adil. Sarah smiled and replied, I'll be there. The next morning, she walked into a small cafe 3 blocks from Redwood Mercy. Adil was already there, sitting in the corner booth. He looked better. Still thin, still marked by everything he'd been through, but present, alive. Sarah slid into the seat across from him. You clean up nice. So do you. They ordered coffee. Neither of them touched it for a while. Just sat there, two people who'd survived something most people would never understand. Finally, Adil spoke. They offered me my old job back. Sarah looked up. Yeah? Yeah. Full reinstatement, cleared of all charges, back pay, the works. Are you going to take it? Adil was quiet. I don't know. Part of me wants to, but part of me... He paused. I'm not sure I'm that person anymore. Sarah understood. What will you do? Figure it out, I guess. He looked at her. What about you? Same, Sarah said. Hospital doesn't know what to do with me. I'm too visible now. Too controversial. Because you told the truth. Apparently that's a problem. Adil smiled. Story of my life. They sat in silence for another moment. Then Adil reached across the table, covering her hand with his. Thank you, he said, for not giving up, for finishing what we started. Sarah squeezed his hand. We both did. As they left the cafe, walking side by side into the morning sunlight, Sarah felt something shift. Not closure, not an ending, but a beginning. The world was still broken. The system was still corrupt. There was still so much work to do. But for the first time in a long time, she wasn't doing it alone. Her phone buzzed. A news alert. Breaking. Deputy Attorney General announces formation of Special Task Force to investigate military intelligence corruption, led by Commander James Hale. Sarah showed Adil. He read it and nodded. It's really happening, he said. Yeah, Sarah said, it is. They kept walking, and somewhere behind them, in the halls of power, in the offices of the guilty, in the shadows where secrets lived, the reckoning was just beginning. They kept walking. And somewhere behind them, in the halls of power, in the offices of the guilty, in the shadows where secrets lived, the reckoning was just beginning. Sarah's phone rang 3 blocks later. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her stop. Hello? Ms. Bennett, this is Patricia Vance, Chief of Staff at Redwood Mercy Hospital. Sarah's stomach tightened. I'm listening. We need to meet. Today, if possible. There are some matters we need to discuss regarding your employment status. Sarah glanced at Adil. He raised an eyebrow. When? Sarah asked. 2 o'clock. My office. The line went dead. Adil looked at her. Trouble? Maybe, Sarah said. Or maybe they're finally going to fire me properly instead of leaving me in limbo. You want company? Sarah shook her head. No, this one's mine. At 2 o'clock, Sarah walked into Patricia Vance's office. The woman behind the desk was in her late 50s, impeccably dressed, with steel gray hair and an expression that gave nothing away. She gestured to a chair. Sit. Sarah sat. Vance folded her hands on the desk. You've caused quite a bit of disruption, Ms. Bennett. I saved a man's life. You violated protocol, overstepped your authority, engaged in unauthorized activities that brought federal agents to this hospital. Vance paused. And you exposed a traitor who was operating under our roof. Sarah didn't respond. She just waited. Vance pulled out a file. Sarah's employee record. Dr. Karim filed a formal complaint against you. Insubordination. Failure to follow direct orders. He also told me to stay in my lane. He did. Vance opened the file. He's since withdrawn that complaint, filed a new report instead, commending your clinical judgment and crisis intervention skills. She looked up. He also recommended you for a promotion. Sarah blinked. What? Senior trauma nurse. It comes with a pay increase, expanded responsibilities, and a seat on the Emergency Response Committee. Vance closed the file. Assuming you want it. Sarah's mind was reeling. I thought you were firing me. I considered it, Vance said. But then I read the incident reports, all of them, from the night Adil Kane came in, from the staff who witnessed what you did. She leaned back. You saw something no one else saw. You acted when everyone else froze. And because of that, a man is alive. A conspiracy was exposed, and this hospital avoided a potential catastrophe. Sarah's throat was tight. I just did my job. No, Vance said. You did more than that. You proved that sometimes the people we overlook are the ones we need most. She stood, extending her hand. Welcome to senior staff, Ms. Bennett. Sarah stood and shook her hand, still processing. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Vance said. The job's going to be harder than what you've been doing. Longer hours, more responsibility. And you'll be working directly with Dr. Karim on protocol reforms. Sarah almost smiled. I can handle that. Good. You start Monday. Sarah left the office in a daze. She'd expected to be terminated. Instead, she'd been promoted by the same institution that had sidelined her for years. She pulled out her phone and texted Adil. You free tonight? His reply came seconds later. Yeah. What's up? Celebration. My place. Bring food. Done. That evening, Sarah's apartment was crowded for the first time in months. Adil brought Chinese takeout. Karim showed up with wine. Rebecca Frost arrived with a cake that said congratulations in shaky icing. They ate on mismatched plates, sitting on Sarah's worn couch and floor cushions, laughing at stories that weren't funny but felt necessary to tell. To Sarah, Karim said, raising his glass, who proved that being right matters more than being liked. I'll drink to that, Rebecca said. They clinked glasses. Sarah felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Not happiness, exactly, but something close. A sense that maybe, just maybe, things were moving in the right direction. So what now? Adil asked. You take the promotion and go back to normal? Sarah set down her glass. I don't think there is a normal anymore. Good, Adil said. Normal's overrated. Rebecca leaned forward. Speaking of not normal, the trial starts in 3 weeks. Morris's lawyers are going to tear into everyone. You ready for that? Sarah's jaw tightened. Yeah, I'm ready. They're going to paint you as an opportunist, Rebecca warned. Someone who stole classified materials for personal gain. They'll question your motives, your mental state, your every decision. Let them, Sarah said. I know what I did, and why. Karim raised his glass again. To knowing why. 3 weeks later, Sarah sat in the witness box of a federal courtroom, facing a room full of people who wanted to destroy her credibility. Morris's defense attorney, a sharp-faced man named Vincent Cross, circled her like a predator. Miss Bennett, Cross said, his voice smooth and cold, you claim you acted out of concern for Adil Kane, but isn't it true that you had a personal agenda? That you saw an opportunity to advance your career by inserting yourself into a classified matter? No, Sarah said. No? Cross raised an eyebrow. Then why did you disobey direct orders from Dr. Karim? Why did you leave the hospital without authorization? Why did you steal classified materials from a secure facility? I didn't steal anything, Sarah said. Adil gave me that drive to protect evidence. Evidence that proved your client was responsible for treason and murder. Cross smiled. Alleged treason. Alleged murder. My client is innocent until proven guilty. But you took it upon yourself to be judge, jury, and executioner. I took it upon myself to save a life, Sarah said. Something your client was trying to end. Cross's expression hardened. You're a nurse, Ms. Bennett, not a spy, not a soldier, not a federal agent. What qualifications do you have to assess a national security threat? I don't need qualifications to recognize a man in pain, Sarah said, or to know when someone's lying. Cross leaned on the witness box. Your brother died of a drug overdose. Isn't it possible that your judgment was clouded by grief? That you projected your inability to save him onto Adil Kane? Sarah's hands clenched. The courtroom went silent. She took a breath. My brother died because no one was there to help him when he needed it, because the system failed him, just like it was failing Adil. She met Cross's eyes. So yes, maybe that affected my judgment. Maybe that's why I refused to let another person slip through the cracks. But it doesn't change the facts. Your client is guilty. And no amount of questioning me is going to change that. Cross stared at her. Then he turned to the judge. No further questions. Sarah stepped down. As she walked past the prosecution table, the lead attorney, a woman named Amanda Pierce, gave her a small nod. When Sarah reached the gallery, Adil was there. He'd testified earlier, his voice steady as he'd recounted everything Morris had done. Now he stood and walked out with her, his hand on her shoulder. You did good, he said quietly. It's not over yet. No, Adil said, but we're winning. The trial lasted 6 weeks. Witness after witness took the stand. Financial experts traced millions of dollars in offshore accounts. Intelligence analysts detailed the missions that had been compromised. Family members of the soldiers who died in Kandahar testified through tears. And through it all, Morris sat at the defense table, expressionless, like none of it touched him. Until the day Commander Hale testified. Hale walked to the stand with a cane, his gait still uneven from the gunshot wound. But his voice was strong as he recounted the breach, the attack, the moment Morris had pulled the trigger. Dr. Morris knew exactly what he was doing, Hale said. He wasn't acting out of desperation or fear. He was tying up loose ends, eliminating witnesses, and he would have succeeded if not for Sarah Bennett and Adil Kane. Cross tried to discredit him, tried to suggest Hale was motivated by professional embarrassment, but Hale didn't flinch. I've spent 23 years in military intelligence, Hale said. I've seen good people do bad things under pressure. But this wasn't pressure. This was calculated evil, and it needs to be called what it is. The jury deliberated for 4 days. When they returned, the courtroom was packed. Sarah sat in the front row, Adil on one side, Kareem on the other. Rebecca was in the press section, recorder running. The foreman stood. We, the jury, find the defendant, Dr. Marcus Morris, guilty on all counts. The courtroom erupted. Morris's face went white. His lawyers immediately called for an appeal, but the judge denied bail. Morris was led away in handcuffs, still silent, still refusing to show anything. Outside, reporters swarmed. Sarah pushed through them, saying nothing. She just wanted to breathe. Adil found her 3 blocks away, sitting on a bench in a small park. He sat down beside her. It's done, he said. Yeah. They sat in silence for a while, watching people walk by, watching the world keep turning like nothing had happened. What happens to him now? Sarah asked. Life in prison, no parole, federal supermax probably. Adil paused. He'll spend the rest of his life in a cell, knowing he lost. Sarah nodded. It should have felt like victory, but mostly it just felt heavy. The others go to trial next month, Adil continued. Lawson, Tate, all of them. Hale's task force has been building cases. They're not getting away. Good. Adil looked at her. You okay? Sarah thought about it. I don't know. I thought I'd feel different. Like something would change once it was over. It is different, Adil said. You just can't see it yet. 2 months later, Sarah stood in the main conference room at Redwood Mercy Hospital. The space was packed. Nurses, doctors, administrators, even some patients who'd requested to attend. Patricia Vance stood at the front. We're here today to recognize exceptional service, actions that went beyond duty, beyond protocol, actions that saved lives and exposed truths we needed to see. She gestured to Sarah. Sarah Bennett, please come forward. Sarah walked to the front, her heart pounding. Vance held a framed certificate and a small medal, the hospital's highest civilian honor, for extraordinary courage, clinical excellence, and unwavering dedication to patient care. We present you with the Redwood Mercy Medal of Valor. Applause filled the room. Sarah took the medal, feeling the weight of it in her hands. She looked out at the crowd and saw faces she recognized. Linda, the senior nurse who'd brushed her aside that first night. Dr. Kareem, who'd told her to stay in her lane. Colleagues who'd ignored her for years. They were all clapping. Vance leaned in. You're supposed to say something. Sarah hadn't prepared anything, but she stepped to the microphone anyway. I didn't do this for recognition, she said. Her voice cracked slightly, but she pushed through. I did it because someone needed help. and because I knew what it was like to watch the system fail someone you care about. She paused. My brother died because no one saw him. No one really looked. And I promised myself I wouldn't let that happen again. Not on my watch. She looked at Kareem. I know I broke rules. I know I made people uncomfortable. But sometimes the rules are wrong. Sometimes you have to trust what you see in front of you, not what the protocol says you should see. She held up the medal. This isn't just for me. It's for everyone who's been told they're not enough, not senior enough, not experienced enough, not important enough. You're enough. And when you see something that matters, you have the right to act. The applause was louder this time. Sarah stepped back, her hand shaking. After the ceremony, people crowded around her. Some offered congratulations. Some apologized for how they'd treated her. Linda was one of them. I was wrong, Linda said quietly. About you. About a lot of things. Sarah nodded. We all were. Can we start over? Sarah extended her hand. Yeah, we can. That evening, Sarah returned to her apartment to find Adil waiting outside her door. He held a folder. What's this? She asked. Job offer, Adil said. Hale's putting together a specialized unit, medical tactical response. People who can work in high-stress environments with military and intelligence personnel. He wants you on the team. Sarah opened the folder. The position was civilian, but embedded with Hale's task force. Training, travel. Significantly more money than her hospital salary. He's offering this to me? Sarah asked. He says you've already proven you can handle it, Adil said, and that you see things other people miss. That's valuable. Sarah scanned the details. What about you? Are you taking it? Adil nodded. Yeah, I'm back in, but different this time. I get to help fix what's broken instead of just following orders. Sarah looked at the offer. Part of her wanted to say yes immediately, but another part hesitated. I just got promoted at the hospital, she said. I'm finally being recognized there. If I leave now, you'll be doing something that matters, Adil finished. Something that saves more than one person at a time. Sarah thought about it. About the night she'd spent in the ER, watching people slip through the cracks. About the system that had failed her brother. About the chance to change things from the inside. Can I think about it? She asked. Take all the time you need, Adil said. Offers open for 2 weeks. He turned to leave, then stopped. For what it's worth. I think you'd be incredible at it. Sarah smiled. Thanks. That night she couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything that had happened, about how far she'd come from that moment in the ER when no one would listen to her. She thought about her brother, about the letter he'd sent her before he died, the one she'd read 100 times but never really absorbed. She got up and pulled it from the drawer where she kept it. The paper was worn, creased from being folded and unfolded so many times. Sarah, I know I'm not doing great. I know you're worried. But I need you to understand something. The hardest part isn't the pain or the memories. It's feeling like I don't matter anymore. Like I'm invisible. You're the only one who still sees me, who still treats me like I'm human. Don't ever stop seeing people, Sarah, even when everyone else looks away, especially then. Love, Marcus. Sarah's eyes blurred. She'd read that letter so many times, but now it hit different because she understood what he meant. She'd felt invisible too, until she'd refused to be. She pulled out her phone and texted Hale. I'm in. His reply came almost immediately. Good, training starts in 3 weeks. Welcome aboard. Sarah set the phone down and exhaled. It was done. She'd made her choice. 3 weeks later, Sarah stood in a training facility outside Washington wearing tactical gear that still felt foreign. Around her, 15 other recruits, a mix of medical professionals, intelligence analysts, and former military, ran through scenarios. Hale stood at the front, watching. When he caught Sarah's eye, he nodded. Adil was there too, running point on tactical medicine modules. He moved through the group, correcting stances, offering advice. When he reached Sarah, he stopped. How's it feel? He asked. Weird, Sarah admitted. But good. You'll get used to it. They ran drills until Sarah's muscles screamed. Simulated crisis scenarios, hostage situations, Medical emergencies under fire. It was brutal, exhausting, and somehow exactly what she needed. On the final day of training, Hale gathered them all in the briefing room. "You're here because you see what others miss," he said, "because you act when others freeze, because you refuse to accept that broken systems can't be fixed." He paused. "The work we're doing isn't glamorous. It won't make headlines, but it will save lives. And it will hold the guilty accountable." He looked at Sarah. "Some of you have already proven that. Now we need you to do it again, and again, for as long as it takes." Sarah felt the weight of it, the responsibility, the trust, and she was ready. 6 months later, Sarah sat in a congressional hearing room. She was there to testify about military intelligence reform, about the changes that needed to happen to prevent another Morris, another betrayal. She'd testified before, but this was different. This time, she wasn't defending herself. She was demanding action. Senator Margaret Holt, chair of the Intelligence Oversight Committee, leaned forward. "Ms. Bennett, you've been working with Commander Hale's task force for 6 months now. What have you observed about systemic vulnerabilities?" Sarah spoke clearly. "The biggest vulnerability isn't technology or security protocols. It's culture. A culture that values rank over insight, credentials over competence, silence over speaking up." "And how do we fix that?" Holt asked. "By changing who has a voice," Sarah said. "Right now, the people on the ground, the ones who see problems first, are the ones no one listens to. We need to flip that. Create channels where anyone, regardless of rank, can raise concerns without fear of retaliation." Another senator interrupted. "That sounds like chaos. How do we separate legitimate concerns from noise?" "You investigate everything," Sarah said. "You treat every report seriously until proven otherwise. Yes, it's more work, but it's worth it if it prevents one more Morris, one more breach, one more death." The hearing lasted 4 hours. When it was over, Sarah walked out to find Adil waiting in the hallway. "You crushed it," he said. "We'll see." 2 weeks later, the committee released its recommendations. Comprehensive reforms, whistleblower protections, independent oversight, mandatory reporting channels. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. 1 year after Morris's conviction, Sarah stood at Arlington National Cemetery. She was there for a memorial service, soldiers who died in the Kandahar ambush, the one Morris had enabled. Families gathered around the graves, some crying, some silent, all grieving. Adil stood beside her, his expression tight. These had been his teammates, his friends. When the service ended, an older woman approached them. She was in her 60s with kind eyes and a military pin on her lapel. "You're Adil Kane," she said. Adil nodded. "Yes, ma'am. My son was Michael Torres. He died in that ambush." Adil's face went pale. "Mrs. Torres, I wanted to thank you," she said, "for making sure the truth came out, for making sure the people responsible didn't get away with it." Adil's voice was rough. "I should have done more. I should have seen it sooner." Mrs. Torres put her hand on his arm. "You did what you could. And because of you, my son's death means something. It exposed a cancer. It saved other lives." She paused. "That's not nothing." She turned to Sarah. "And you must be Sarah Bennett." Sarah nodded, surprised. "Commander Hale told me about you," Mrs. Torres said, "about how you refused to let this go. How you fought when everyone told you to stop." Her eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, from all of us. Thank you for seeing our sons, for making sure they weren't forgotten." Sarah's throat closed. "I'm just sorry it took so long." "Don't be," Mrs. Torres said. "Justice came. That's what matters." As they walked away from the cemetery, Adil was quiet. Finally, he spoke. "I spent a year thinking I failed them." "You didn't," Sarah said. "I know that now," Adil said, "because of you." Sarah stopped walking. "We did this together. You, me, Hale, Rebecca, all of us." Adil smiled. "Yeah, we did." That evening, Sarah returned to her apartment, a nicer place now, paid for by her new salary. She poured a glass of wine and sat on her balcony, watching the city lights. Her phone buzzed. A text from Kareem. Saw you on the news. Congressional hearing. You're kind of a big deal now. Sarah smiled and typed back. Still just a nurse. His reply came fast. No. You're so much more than that, and you always were. Sarah set the phone down. She thought about where she'd been a year ago. Invisible. Dismissed. Told to stay in her lane. And now she was sitting on a balcony, working with military intelligence, testifying before Congress, and helping reshape how the system worked. It still didn't feel real. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Hello? Sarah Bennett? A woman's voice. Young. Uncertain. Speaking. My name is Elena Ramirez. I'm a nursing student at Metro General. I read about what you did, about how you stood up when no one else would. Sarah sat up. Okay. I'm in a situation, Elena said, at my hospital. I saw something wrong, but when I reported it, they told me to drop it, said I was overreacting, that I should focus on my studies. Sarah's pulse quickened. What did you see? Elena hesitated. A doctor? Altering medication dosages, covering up mistakes. I think he's hurt people, but he's senior staff, and I'm just a student. No one will listen to me. Sarah stood, crossing to her desk. She pulled out a notepad. Tell me everything, and don't leave anything out. An hour later, Sarah hung up. She stared at the notes she'd taken. Another case. Another person being ignored because they didn't have the right credentials. She texted Hale. Need to talk. New situation. His reply was immediate. Office, tomorrow, 8 a.m. Sarah looked at the notes again. Then she texted Elena back. You did the right thing by calling. We're going to fix this. I promise. The next morning, Sarah walked into Hale's office with a full report. He read it, his expression darkening. You want to pursue this? He asked. Yeah, Sarah said. I do. Hale nodded. Then let's get to work. And they did. Over the next 6 months, Sarah and Hale's team investigated Elena's claims. They found evidence of malpractice, cover-ups, a pattern of behavior that had been ignored for years because no one wanted to challenge a senior physician. The doctor was arrested, stripped of his medical license, charged with negligent homicide. And Elena Ramirez testified, just like Sarah had, standing in front of people who didn't believe her and refusing to back down. When it was over, Elena called Sarah. I don't know how to thank you, she said. You don't have to, Sarah replied. Just promise me something. What? When you see something wrong, don't stay silent, even if it's hard, even if no one listens at first. Keep pushing. Elena's voice was steady. I will. I promise. 2 years after the trial, Sarah stood at a podium in a university auditorium. She was giving a lecture, Medical Ethics and Institutional Accountability. The room was packed with nursing students, young faces eager and uncertain. You're going to be told a lot of things, Sarah said. Stay in your lane, don't make waves, follow protocol. And some of that is good advice. Protocols exist for a reason. She paused. But sometimes the protocol is wrong. Sometimes the system is broken. And when that happens, you have a choice. You can stay silent, or you can speak up. A hand went up. A young man in the third row. What if speaking up costs you your job? Sarah smiled. It might. It almost cost me mine. But here's what I learned. Your integrity is worth more than your job. And the people who matter will recognize that. Another hand, a woman in the front. What if no one listens? Then you find someone who will, Sarah said. You keep pushing until the truth comes out. Because it always does. Eventually. After the lecture, students crowded around her, some asking questions, some just wanting to shake her hand. One young woman handed her a note. Sarah read it later, sitting in her car. It said, My brother died because a doctor made a mistake and covered it up. Thank you for showing me that silence isn't the only option. Sarah folded the note and put it in her wallet, next to the letter from her brother. That evening, she met a deal at the same cafe where they'd had coffee 2 years ago. He looked good, Healthy, settled, more at peace than she'd ever seen him. "You hear about Tate's sentencing?" he asked. Sarah nodded. 30 years, federal prison. "Justice," Adil said. "Finally." They ordered coffee, sat in comfortable silence for a while. "I've been thinking," Adil said, "about what happens next." Sarah looked up. "What do you mean?" "We've spent 2 years cleaning up the mess," he said, "putting people in prison, fixing broken systems. But what comes after that?" Sarah thought about it. "We keep going. There's always more work." "True," Adil said, "but I want it to be different. I want to build something, not just tear down what's broken." Sarah leaned forward. "Like what?" "A program," Adil said, "for veterans who are struggling, who don't trust the system, who need help but don't know how to ask for it." Sarah's chest tightened. "That's a good idea." "I want you to help me," Adil said. "You understand what they're going through. You know how to reach people no one else can." Sarah thought about her brother, about all the people like him who'd fallen through the cracks. "Yeah," she said, "I'm in." 6 months later, they opened the doors to the Resilience Center, a nonprofit dedicated to helping veterans transition back to civilian life. Medical care, mental health support, job training, no red tape, no bureaucracy, just help. Sarah ran the medical side. Adil handled outreach and coordination. Hale served on the board, using his connections to secure funding. On opening day, 43 veterans walked through the doors, some skeptical, some desperate, all needing something the system hadn't given them. Sarah greeted each one personally, looked them in the eye, made sure they knew they were seen. By the end of the first year, they'd helped over 300 people. Jobs secured, lives rebuilt, families reunited, and every time someone walked out of the center with hope in their eyes, Sarah thought about her brother, about how different things might have been if a place like this had existed for him. 3 years after Morris's conviction, Sarah received an invitation. A ceremony at the Pentagon. The Secretary of Defense was presenting awards for civilian service to national security. She almost didn't go. Awards and ceremonies weren't her thing, but Hale insisted. "You earned this," he said, "and people need to see it. They need to know that doing the right thing matters." So Sarah went. She wore a simple dress, feeling out of place among the military uniforms and formal suits. When her name was called, she walked to the stage. The Secretary of Defense stood there, holding a medal. "Sarah Bennett," he said, "for extraordinary courage in exposing corruption, preventing loss of life, and upholding the highest standards of integrity and service, we present you with the Defense Civilian Service Medal." He pinned the medal to her dress. The room applauded. Sarah stepped to the microphone. She hadn't prepared a speech, but words came anyway. "I'm not a hero," she said. "I'm just someone who refused to look away. And I think that's something we all can do. We all have the power to see what's wrong and demand better, to speak up when others stay silent, to act when others freeze." She looked out at the crowd. "The real heroes are the people who do that every day. The nurses who advocate for patients. The soldiers who report misconduct. The civilians who blow the whistle on corruption. They're the ones who make the system work. And they deserve to be recognized." She held up the medal. "This isn't just for me. It's for all of them." The applause was thunderous. After the ceremony, reporters swarmed. Sarah answered a few questions, then slipped away. She found Adil and Kareem waiting outside. "Nice speech," Kareem said. "I meant it." "We know," Adil said. They walked together through the city, talking about the center, about upcoming cases, about the future. And for the first time in Sarah's life, the future felt bright. 5 years after everything began, Sarah stood in the same emergency room where it had all started. She was there for a guest lecture, training new staff on crisis intervention and patient advocacy. The room looked the same monitors, the same equipment, the same chaos. But it felt different. "Doctor." Kareem stood beside her, introducing her to the staff. "This is Sarah Bennett, former senior trauma nurse, current director of medical operations for Hale's task force, and the person who taught me that the best care comes from listening, really listening, to the people in front of you." Sarah smiled. "Thanks, Kareem." She turned to the assembled staff. I'm not here to lecture you about protocols or procedures. I'm here to tell you a story about a patient who walked through those doors 5 years ago. A patient no one wanted to treat. A patient everyone thought was just another problem. She told them about a deal, about the tattoo she'd recognized, about the code she'd used, about refusing to give up when everyone told her to step aside. That patient is alive today because I trusted what I saw, Sarah said, not what I was told to see. And that's the lesson I want you to take away. Trust your instincts, question authority when it's wrong, and never ever let anyone tell you that you don't matter. The staff listened, rapt. When she finished, a young nurse raised her hand. What if we're wrong? What if we make a mistake? Sarah nodded. You will make mistakes. We all do. But the biggest mistake is staying silent when you know something's wrong, because that mistake costs lives. After the lecture, the young nurse approached her. I have a patient, she said quietly. Something doesn't feel right, but the attending physician says I'm overreacting. Sarah looked at her. What do you think? I think something's wrong. Then investigate it, Sarah said. And if you need help, call me. She handed the nurse her card. The woman took it, relief flooding her face. Thank you, she said. Sarah smiled. Just doing my job. That evening, Sarah sat in her office at the Resilience Center. The walls were covered with photos, veterans who'd come through the program, success stories, lives saved. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through messages. One from Hale, asking about a case. One from Rebecca, sharing a new article exposing government waste. One from Elena Ramirez, now a licensed nurse, thanking Sarah again for believing her. And one from Adil. Dinner tomorrow? I'm cooking. Sarah smiled and typed back. You can't cook. His reply. I'll order takeout and pretend I made it. Deal. She set the phone down and looked at the medal on her desk. The one from the Pentagon. It sat next to her hospital award, next to a photo of her and her brother, taken years ago when they were both young and the future seemed limitless. Sarah picked up the photo. I kept my promise, she said quietly. I didn't stop seeing people. Her brother's face smiled back at her from the frame. Forever young, forever lost, but not forgotten. Never forgotten. Sarah set the photo down and stood. She had work to do, cases to review, veterans to help, systems to change. And she was ready, because 5 years ago she'd been a nurse no one listened to, someone told to stay in her lane, someone dismissed and overlooked. And now she was someone who changed the world, not because she was special, not because she had credentials or rank or authority, but because she refused to stay silent, refused to look away, refused to accept that broken things couldn't be fixed. And that, Sarah realized, was power, not the kind that came from titles or medals or recognition, but the kind that came from within, from knowing who you are, from refusing to be anything less. Sarah grabbed her jacket and headed for the door. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new battles, new people who needed someone to see them. And she would be there, always. Because that's what heroes do. They show up, they speak up, they stand up, even when, especially when, no one else will. And as Sarah Bennett stepped out into the night, she carried with her the one truth that had sustained her through everything. You don't need permission to do the right thing. You just need courage. And she had plenty of that.